Oh, maybe go for it. Like everything in mine, like 10 years from there. Hey, one for me. What is that? My mom.
Oh, it's the best.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? Is that I? The most idyllic, like, that in like New England. I'll show you that. Oh my gosh.
I just took your mom a picture of the snow.
Yeah, my kids don't do it.
It's like they make a Christmas carol off about.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Oh, that's
Oh my gosh. You love it.
Yeah.
You love it.
Yeah, and my mom retired like 10 years and. I don't know, they're good. She lived up there, so we spent a lot of time. I don't know, where's like KJP's feed, like?
Here was it.
They do all this like cute, the whole town is just really adorable. Like they live, I mean, they're like, oh, but it is really cute. And it's like right on the water and everything's kind of like, you know, but. Yeah.
I might have new characters like that, and then
Yeah.
oh my god.
I use something. I drive all the time.
Really?
Yeah. My parents are both from Massachusetts, so we always went to New England, but it was like 5 hours, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, 7 hours. We always did it. We were always going up there. And I don't know how God damn mom wanted to do skiing, all three of us, we such a little shit. I think us for 6 hours, but I mean, most of it were great kids. We were great kids. To sit in a car for 5 hours, to my two older brothers. Yeah, exactly.
Getting wearing pack, getting to ski school.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. They chose the two worst sports. They chose skiing and hockey. The two most.
Great winter sports.
The two most gear, like expensive gear, like
Have you ever gone to Lake Onset?
Yes,
Oh my goodness, isn't
it's
it
wonderful.
beautiful?
I love it.
Mhm.
I played hockey there because I finished with, in the office to,
Yeah.
I
You should go to Charlotte, so that's why. You okay?
I'm on there, really.
I mean, thank
Going
you.
down here.
It's good, moral support.
Yeah.
I would be back there for the, rolling birthday. So I was there, I was a mom. And the dad,
It's all great. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
We need to come on.
Hi. Hi, I'm so sorry, did you see my email completed?
No, no problem, no problem.
Sorry. Exactly, between voicemails.
I don't know this stuff. And so,
And I didn't get a chance to put the, email yet, but.
But the point of being your seat is.
Yeah, so yeah, I was so embarrassed.
Oh,
okay.
So you got here just recently? Or?
Yeah, I started here the end of.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Or else.
Right.
It's,
So.
you might look kind of weak. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Personality.
And I find that really interesting.
It really is.
And you've been a surgeon.
Yeah.
Like,
No, yeah, everybody be a little.
I like this.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
At the Look area or?
I mean.
Well,
it's not that.
it's your mouth, is that one?
Everyone for sure. Well, I take some shoes down and send it.
We did bring them.
I'm gonna take it back to its most.
Right, yeah. So,
So, yeah, that's what I think.
exactly.
I've been there out there for many years.
Yeah.
River Edge, Florida, Side River.
Okay, yeah, you got.
Yeah, yeah. I was there.
Yeah, no, look, been like.
Here's the, I don't even remember who this is.
Just township, so, Rockland Township, so.
I watched
somewhere.
You watched Dog Funny Dance? Yeah.
Keeps us
Yeah,
going.
we know.
The other day.
Morning, when we were talking, we get to.
Oh, yeah. You want to distract me, they get there. I'm like, the drop off instruction is very fast, the dogs are so slow. They really are, but they rush. Maggie, who, as the year does not leave, I have to hold it, like, pick her up and bring her. She just take her around.
Yeah, be quiet. Break your thoughts there. Hey, how are you?
Okay. I can compare. No. Your drone likes to be a better. So I just gotta make it smarter.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so minute. Oh, up here. That's good, because you're talking about large, but they don't know where they sit. After. Well, I don't know. Been on for a very long time, so you make that right.
That's basically what I do, I like your.
Here. Not for this one.
Yeah, John is on.
Yes.
Oh, yes. That's what you got.
I get to talk about your trash now, then. My body.
No, but you-
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
David Green.
Then haven't seen him. How are you? Nice to see you.
Person.
I'm Dennis McDowell. Nice to see you. High school, you know, he's gained 50 pounds. He's lost their big work.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting.
By the way, you got it. Now, Lou, do you have this one here?
Chairman.
Okay.
I'm here, this is usually.
You might as well.
Frank is this.
Brett, yeah, no, I still.
Chicken Deli.
Yeah, I haven't heard from them.
Sit here, Diana is gonna talk. And.
Yeah. So he is.
All right.
And then.
Yeah.
Well, for the first time I'm doing it, I figured to figure it out and.
I didn't have any suggestions, I would say. Yeah. The next few, likes.
Okay.
Oh, well,
I think most practically, you have to be able to get it reviewed.
Yeah, Chick has to, he's
He's just saying.
yeah.
Okay.
So he's like.
I'll put it down there. So then now, I see Mark sat down there.
So generally speaking, historically, the alternate is sat in the peanut gallery.
Okay.
Whereas the regular, well, Rich will sit at the right hand. Well, the vice chair.
Yeah, see, the planning board, the attorney doesn't sit up. He sits down there. So I, oh, then yes, then yes. Well, we have these two seats so that we can get a total of 9 up here. Exactly.
Like.
Is Rich coming?
No, Rich is not.
Oh, no.
I don't know. I need to go oh, maybe he's not. Okay. What about, but we don't know about Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff.
And he likes it over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, Del Russo there. Chairman, like, the attorney does that to me next to them, so it's kind of. It's enough to scream when you're down there.
Honestly, like, people will just sit in front of the whole sentence.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well, and in my experience, if people don't want to sit there, they can put on the chairs.
Yes, I'm fine right here.
If everybody's happy where they are, I'll take a photo later, so I remember for next time.
Well,
It's all good.
technically, it's supposed to be over there.
Wait, you're not regular? What the hell are you doing?
I know.
He's trying to get rid of all of us.
All right, there's room, so. First off.
Yeah, out of the way, out of the way. I substituted a couple. He ended up sitting in. Don't ask him. There he is.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Isn't it almost,
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
Boy, it seems like. Well, I was
Yeah, actually, I'm writing. 9%, I think.
Look, I like this. When I
Got you. Yeah, no, I am paid to work. Very tough.
Your dad is really.
Now. Yeah. I know. I can imagine. I can imagine.
The rest of it's the normal.
Oh, yeah. I get all of that. I get all of it.
So newer.
Yeah, that one. That's fine.
Newer, very simple mistake nowadays.
Supplement board of adjustment. And then, that's like a couple years ago. No, that was my husband. So, adjustment. Your applications. I read that, I want to say about a year ago.
Yeah.
But yours is the first one to do it.
Have you?
Because the application's bad.
Yeah.
You, the mayor, it's the same last year, same. It's for 1 year. You don't say. What if they're extended? It's test. You gotta educate.
Yeah.
Chair, and I think the regular board. Triage is things that came out of the treasure. Easier, so that's so. That's easy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think. He hasn't.
Yeah.
Ready to rock and roll?
Yes.
Yeah, this, you know, we don't.
Yes, we are good now.
Okay. Are we picking up from,
I just find that.
Better if they were down here.
Yeah. Actually, Mark, you're welcome to sit up here. Yes.
Right.
I mean, you can vote this as you want. Oh, yeah.
They don't have better times out.
And then the director's yeah, I mean, whatever works.
Oh, and he's having a kitchen.
It's like high school.
Whatever works best for the.
Except Tom, it's even younger.
Tom is younger. You, big time.
Ready?
Okay,
Ready?
yeah, we're ready. We're good.
Or recording, yes.
This evening, December 4th, all Board of Adjustment meetings will be held in person in the meeting hall on the second floor of Bernardsville Municipal Building at 166 Minebrook Road. Meetings will be live streamed on YouTube, so we're all stars now. With no opportunity for public comment, members of the public wishing to offer comments or ask questions will be required to attend the meetings in person. YouTube live stream access to all meetings is big long URL. This link will also be available on the agenda for each meeting. Yeah, I cheated. Which is posted on the Borough website and on the Borough Hall public bulletin board at least 48 hours prior to meetings. Notice the changes as also been emailed to the Bernardsville News and Courier News by posting a copy of the Borough website and by filing a copy of the municipal clerk, all on October 5th, 2023. It's the intention of the board not to convene any matter past 11 p.m. at any regular special meeting of the board, unless the motion is passed by members then present to extend to a later specified cutoff time, and same shall be announced at the opening of each meeting. Members of the public may participate in meetings at certain designated times as announced by the board chair. Members of the public will be permitted to address applicants and their experts, ask questions, and or make comments as appropriate once invited to do so. Any hearing conducted by the board is a quasi judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision. The quorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call, please.
I'm so sorry, but I just lost my roll call sheet. I had it when I got here.
Don't rush.
Don't know where it is. We're just gonna do it this way. Mr. McDowell,
Here.
Mr. Slocum,
Here.
Ms. Thank you, Ms. Kramer,
Here.
Mr. Greenabel,
Here. Mr. Malone.
Mr. Malillo.
Here.
So,
Want to balance it, here's the other people. Here's the others.
yeah, I was gonna say, Mr. Sedlak, Mr. Stalliard, Mr. Del Russo are all absent. Mr. Trainer is absent.
Ms. Kramer is going to be absent.
No, Ms. Kramer's here.
Oh, I'm
Ms.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Ms. Leffler
Yes,
Ms.
yes, Ms. Leffler,
is absent.
yes. Sorry about that.
Okay. We got that. We have no minutes. We do have communications. We have the New Jersey Planner, which I have not read yet. Always a good read. Comments later. And we don't have any old business. We do have an application on the agenda this evening, Liberty Farm Dogs. Application number 23-04. Who is presenting for that application? And you are.
Yes, Nicole Madziak from the law firm Day Pitney,
Well, if you could spell your last name, please.
MADZIAK.
G as in good, D as in dog, Z as in zebra, IAK.
And it's Nicole.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we're good on notice of publication.
Oh, yeah, and waivers.
Yes.
Because first. John's memo. There's John's memo.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you have John's memo? I don't have it. I actually don't have it.
oh, do you have an extra, or do you have an extra memo, Dave?
I don't have one, obviously, I haven't.
I have to, I have an extra.
You have an extra one for Dave?
Okay. So,
Thank you.
That's the only one I have an extra of.
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Sure. I have to file though if you need.
So John actually didn't list anything specifically. It's missing. But the application, he said, was more on the order of planning and engineering. No alterations to the existing property. To accommodate the application. Checklist item.
Okay. Site plan is required. Yeah. Set. Check. Site plan. If we.
Okay, so it's just the site plan that's really the big item that's missing. So depending upon how the board views the application, we may come back and ask for a site plan. Is that acceptable?
Yes, so at this time, we are seeking just the use variance. We are also in receipt of Mr. Zabel's letter from September 15th and understand his position as to the site plan. So we'd like to proceed this evening with the use variance portion, and in the event it's approved, understand that a site plan may be required by this board.
We would not approve it if we wanted a site plan. So in other words, if a site plan were required, we would not make the decision this evening. And you'd have to come back to that.
Okay, so this board won't bifurcate the application to hear the use variance portion
No.
first. Okay,
No,
understood.
the application we heard in its entirety in the
Okay.
process.
Thank you.
Is the board okay with operating under that condition?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I hear a motion to grant the approval to move forward with the one thing missing is the big item missing is the site plan. And if it's required, it'll just get continued.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll deem the application complete. And we'll let you continue.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I sit for the presentation just so we can use the computer to present our exhibits?
That's fine.
Is that okay? Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank
as long
you.
as it's recorded, that's all I care.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Nicole, before you start your formal presentation, if you tell the board your game plan in terms of witnesses, so we know who to ask what of.
Sure. So just a very high level introduction. I'm here this evening on behalf of Liberty Farms Office LLC. We are seeking a use variance to permit what we're calling a doggy daycare at a house in the R5 zone located on Liberty Road, particularly 21 Liberty Road. So this evening I have the owner and applicant, Haley, and her planner, Matt Flynn. So we're intending to present two witnesses. So Haley will provide the board with a bit of background on the actual operation. So things like the hours of operation, how many dogs she has, how her sort of day looks in terms of when drop-offs are, when pickups are, the different components of her business. And then Matt will provide the planning proofs for the use variance.
Okay, you're also aware that you need 5 affirmative votes for use variance, and we have 5 members here this evening.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you very much.
So if we get that far, we have to make a decision.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we'd like to proceed with our first witness, Haley Connolly, who, as I just noted, will talk us through the operations of the proposed business. Yeah, as long as it picks up here. Oh, there.
How are you? If you could raise your right hand, please. With, with
Sorry.
with regard to this application, do you swear that testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Okay, could you state your name again for the record and spell it, please?
Haley, Haley, and my last name is Connolly, Connelly.
Thank you.
And Ms. Connolly, for the benefit of the board, can you please describe your position in connection to the proposed business? So I'm the owner, the sole owner of Liberty Farm Dogs. And it is a boarding, daycare, and home visits, business. And can you describe your experience with this particular use? My experience with the particular use of my taking care of dogs and dog daycare? Okay, so everything I do is based around like the temperament of each dog, so it really just depends, but we temperament test every dog that comes through our house, or any dog that comes through my business in general. That looks like the person calls me, they inquire, I run through a history. I get the history on the dog. I then say, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and we'll do a meet and greet. If the dog is looking to come to my home, then we do the meet and greet at my house. I am a big believer in slow, patient socialization with animals. And so it often looks like, if they're coming to my house, we have all dogs away and the dog gets their time. I temperament test them in a small gated area that's between my house and my, like between my yard and my, I guess like my driveway. Okay. And I temperament test the dog in there. That looks like me touching their ears, their feet, their tails, making sure that they're not reactive. And then if that goes well, the dog enters my yard. They get time to sniff around, settle down, relax. The initial excitement wears off, and then they meet one dog at a time. So that's for my house. It's a completely different story for the dog if they need to be for in-home care. And that really is just determined based on how I feel about that dog and their history. If the dog's suitable for my house, that's they have to be suitable for all the dogs that come to my house. So Haley, you had noted that in this particular case, as you're screening dogs for your daycare program, you had said that it's at your house. So the intent of your application is that this business is going to operate out of your home, correct? It is. And you currently live in this? I do. As the only resident along with your family, correct? Me and my husband live there. So you had also mentioned that if the dogs are not appropriate to be at your house, you have a separate service that would be provided at the home of the dog owner, correct? Yeah. So what we're seeking approval for this evening is the particular component of your business that's going to be operating out of your house. Yeah. And you're introducing these dogs to, you had noted, other dogs that will be at your home. How many dogs do you expect to be at your house per day? So that all varies on who I have, but the maximum number I go with is between 6 and 8. So 8 is an absolute maximum. And that's including my animals, my dogs as well. I have 2 of my own. So yeah, so every dog that comes through there, I temperament test each dog, and then that depends on how many other dogs I'll have while that dog's around that day. So you're expecting no more than 8 dogs on your property per day? No more than 8, yeah. And 2 of those are your own? Mm-hmm. Can you describe how your business, so for the benefit of the board, your business has been operating already, correct? It has. And then you received a notice from the zoning officer that you require use variance for your business, correct? So since you have been operating before, can you just describe generally the hours of your operation and how many employees you have on site, if any? So I don't have any employees on site. Me and my husband do it all. And yeah, so I have set hours. 9 a.m. is drop off and pick up opportunities, and 4 p.m. is drop off and pick up opportunities. Drop offs in the morning, I can get anywhere from 1 to 3. usually for daycare. That's a pretty quick transition. They drop off, they leave. And then I also give that opportunity for the people to pick up from their boarding, or if they want to stay till 4, they have another opportunity to come around 4 o'clock. And then that's my set hours, 9 to 4 for daycare.
And in addition to daycare, you had also mentioned that some of your dog owners board their dogs at your house. Can you just describe for the board how that would work?
So, I really do consider it a home away from home environment. The dog comes to me, they bring their food and their bed and yeah, they're socialized into the group. They usually come for daycare several times before that, so they're adjusted into my home. And then they spend the night there, just like my dogs do. They live with us.
How frequent would you say, or how many nights would you say a typical boarding stay is?
That really varies. It can be anywhere from like an overnight to a week.
So we have an exhibit. Ms. Florida, will I be able to share the screen?
Yes, they made you co-host, so you should have that ability.
Great, thank you. So we're going to mark this as A1. And Haley, if you can just describe for the board what is being shown.
Sure.
All right,
So-
this is an,
so this is-
excuse me, this is A1, this is, I'm assuming this is a colorized aerial of the property. We have
So this is,
something similar, but not the same, so let's
Oh,
mark
there's
it.
another one, yeah, there's.
so this is an aerial photograph of the property, and then imposed on the aerial photograph is labeling of streets and identifying areas on the property connected with these. And this was taken by the applicant.
When was this taken approximately?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, so that's exactly what our yard looks like right now.
So Haley, using this exhibit A1, can you just describe for the board, if somebody's coming to the property to drop off their dog, just walk them through that process?
Sure, so they park in Garibaldi, or they go up to Garibaldi, they park in that little drop-off zone right there. It's a very quick process, in and out, the dogs know where they're going, they're very excited to be here, so they jump right out and drag their owner in. And yeah, and that's it, they come in and out, we have 4 parking spaces right there, Mike's car is there right now, so it's usually in the garage, but at least in the morning.
And do the owners take their dogs to this set of double gates?
Yes, I meet everyone at the gate. I have cameras everywhere, so we get notified anytime someone like drives down Garibaldi and is dropping off in the yard or in our driveway. And so I meet everyone at the second gate. No one is allowed to have, into the gates without me.
And then these gates lead to a fully fenced in backyard, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
And in the event that there's inclement weather, so if there's a lot of rain or there's snow and the dogs can't be outside, can you describe where the dogs are when they can't be outside?
Inside, where your dog would be. I mean, it snows, it rains. Of course, I do end up like having dogs that love the snow. They want to play in the snow. I think, that's common, but, yeah, and then my house is the big dog house, We have a bunch of rooms that are the entire downstairs is for the dogs. It's all for the dogs. They're allowed to jump over everything and sleep wherever they want. But I do have obviously it's very organized. I do have a room off the guest bedroom that the dogs like to go hang out in. There's a David in there. They like to look out the window and relax in the sun and veg. There's always a nice space for them to get quiet. There's a bathroom downstairs. I put beds in there. They love it in there. Yeah.
So the dogs use your home as you use your home?
Yeah.
As a resident, correct? And then one other question that was included in the board planner's review letter dated September 15th, 2023 relates to the noise associated with barking dogs that are outside and how it may potentially impact other neighbors. Can you just describe for the board, since you have been in operation, have you had any complaints from neighbors related to noise?
I haven't had any complaints from neighbors. A lot of my neighbors are here tonight to speak to that as well. And don't think I'm a particularly noisy house. We have a big dog neighborhood, so it's pretty just like anyone else's house.
Thank you. That's all the direct testimony we have for this.
Other questions from the board? Diane, you do have any?
Yeah, I just have some, how long have you been doing this in your house?
I've been opening publicly as a reformed dog since April, and then I started doing this probably January of last year. Or
This year.
Yeah, 2020, yeah.
So January of what year?
23rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that this has been going on since 2023. Okay.
What's the significance of April?
That's just when I, made it Liberty Farm Dogs, as opposed to just little Haley.
Okay,
So you formalized the business in
Yeah.
April,
Mhm.
and do you also have a website?
I do have a website, yeah.
And that's in connection with the Liberty Farm Dogs, correct? So prior to Liberty Farm Dogs.
I didn't have a
you
website, no, I.
But you had a similar operation,
I
you were
did.
just doing it independently as an individual.
I was, well, actually, I was working with another woman who has a business in this area, and I actually came on to help her. She had overflow, and I was like, great, let's do this, but we knew that she needed to go through certain steps, and it didn't work out between us, and so I decided that I wanted to do this the way that I felt was the right way, and as a, loving dog person, I think anyone else would feel like, they want their dog in a safe home, a safe environment.
What happened, or did something happen where you are making this application? I mean, what precipitated this
So I
application?
received a letter from Renee Aperuso, that said that so I thought I was in zone for in-home businesses. So it didn't occur to me too much that I was not doing an in-home business, because it's just me there. And it's just a couple dogs, but I received the letter. A bunch of other women, I think, in this area have been receiving letters about dog care as well, and going through these steps. So I just, as soon as I got the letter, we called to start the process.
Was there a reason that you got the letter? I mean,
So interestingly, yes. Yeah, so like I mentioned, I worked with another woman, and I think that she had called the town on me. And, no, so anyway, I hope that's not it. Anyway, that's the factual.
So as far as you're aware, it wasn't a neighbor that.
Oh, no,
generated that.
oh my gosh.
everybody gets their chance to present testimony.
The competition.
Let's
So
start with,
Facebook was really what put me out there. People started recommending me on Facebook. They'd have great experiences, and that was just how my name got around. And when I finally looked at it as a business, as opposed to just caring for dogs in a way that I thought was the right way, I then realized that's when we made times, hours, daycare, what this was gonna look like, what the behavioral aspect was gonna look like. Were we gonna do training with it? And I do training with every dog that comes through here. They learn their manners. You have to have manners if you wanna come to daycare. Same thing with boarding. So they come through. It's not many dogs, and I like it that way because I can only give my attention and keep manners with so many dogs. And so I got, my name went around on Facebook, and then I stupidly started an Instagram, and I think that was probably why it got more well-known.
I have a question.
go ahead.
So typically, you mentioned daycare and boarding and training. So businesses of that type, is there any licensing requirements or permitting requirements?
So for training, there's certifications you can get, right? Like anything, you can get certifications, but it's not necessary for business. It's not necessary for a business to have a licensing and training, or certificate in it. What they do require is licensing for kennels. And kennels are, as the typical patent that you see, lots of cages, lots of sections, the chain link fence. The dog gets the chance to interact, maybe once or twice a day with other people, other dogs. Otherwise, they pretty much, in a kennel. And I think in 2023, we've learned so much about dog behavior and so much about dogs. And I think at this stage in our, in the dog world, we know that, kennels aren't necessarily, it's gonna like, they have to exist for a reason. I absolutely believe in them, but that's not where most dogs thrive. Most dogs thrive in environments where they're interacting with people and socializing with other animals, and that's where their confidence grows. That's where they get their manners. That's how they become better family members, better playmates, all that good stuff that makes them wonderful family members. So yes, there is licensing for kennels, and there's requirements for those. But as far as I have seen for this particular type of business, where people do it out of their home and they're given variances for that, it's just depends on, the town you're in. And as far as doing it out of your home, you do need fire code requirements, which we're going to go through, and obviously, but yeah, that's about it. And it's also based on, how many dogs I could have personally. I think, they got that, I think they say 10 in some, it's like a personal amount of dogs you can do. I don't want 10 dogs in my house, but 6 to 8 is like what works for us.
That was my other question, and I
Sorry.
don't know if you know, but is there like a maximum number of dogs that can be
For personal use.
on a property?
I'm certain it varies by town. I know people who hate dogs, and I know people who have half a dozen of them personally.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, with a business, I'm not sure. I'm assuming if there was an ordinance in place, which I don't think there is in Bernardsville, for dogs, I'm assuming that would limit the number, but other than that, it's just what makes sense. The size of the property and things like that.
And Mr. McDowell, we did review the ordinance in that context, just to see if this particular town had a limit on the number of pets or dogs specifically that you could have on the property, and we're unable to find anything in the ordinance on that point. There is a section of the ordinance that does speak to licensing for kennels, although kennels are not actually permitted anywhere in the town, but there is an ordinance section for licenses for those. So to the extent that a use like this would qualify under that particular licensure, if this were granted, then Ms. Connolly would go through the process, whatever the town would require to obtain that particular license.
Well, thank you.
So as far as the state regulations for kennels, are you aware whether there's any capacity that they would impose, like X number of square feet per animal, or is there?
Oh, there are, yeah, well, it's also depending on, it depends on the town. Like Bedminster, you need 10 acres. You need 10 acres, like minimum, although I think like Tar Heel was grandfathered in, but you need 10 acres minimum, and that's for like what gotta be like minimum 20 dogs.
So I think more particularly, are you aware of a state standard for, if it is a kennel for square footage? So is it 100 feet per dog? Or
That is not, it just depends on the kennel and what the situation is. You have kennels that are commercial kennels, like Morris Animal Inn, which is not on a large property, but the way they've done it is they built it inside. Like you go into the city, you see the indoor daycares, that sort of thing. So it really just depends. I don't know the exact like square footage per dog, but I know that it's just relative to the facility.
Yeah, I mean, I like poked around at the NJAC and I found regulation pertaining to kennels, and I did not see anything to that effect. So it was, if you could confirm that, I guess that was really my question. I didn't see anything about capacity cap in the administrative code that I was looking at.
When you say kennel, are you talking about the animals being in cages?
In cages.
Or just not being in cages?
That's the standard kennel, yeah, they're in cages. Some make it look like really nice cages, which like you can learn more, and places like that are so necessary, and I believe in them. Morris Animal, and they're rooms, but they're like little cells, like they're nice. They have a TV in there, and you can pay $20 to get your dog read a story, but it's still in a box that your dog isn't leaving, So.
How many dogs would you board overnight?
That's the same number, 6 to 8. It just depends on the dogs that I have. The maximum overnight in my home I would have is 8, and that's including my 2 dogs. I have small dogs in them. I've got a miniature pinscher and a miniature dog, so there's a lot of work.
So your max would be 8. Okay.
What is, in terms of, how do you monitor like food and sanitary conditions, in the situation?
So I use kennel grade cleaning products. I also get my house cleaned by a company every month too. But as far as feeding goes, I feed each dog individually. It's not only the safest way to do it, it's the fastest way. Mostly when dogs are in new environments, they don't like to eat. And so when you give them that, like, I close myself in my little guest bedroom with them, I sit on the floor and I sit there and watch them. And they gobble it up because they know someone's got their back while they're eating, so they can relax. In the new environment, I know it's crazy, but that's how dogs are. And yeah, so I go one at a time. They get brought into a room, fed, it's like clockwork.
And are they bringing their own food or? are you
Yes.
supplying?
Oh, I'm a big, yeah, I know that some kennels do supply the food, but I think that keeping the consistent diet of your dog is super important. Especially, I do take on medically, dogs that have medical issues and need medication and special diet.
So your clients are bringing all of the food for their individual dog, correct?
Yes,
And in the event they need medication or medication?
yes, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you feed all of them individually?
How often do you clean up outside?
Every day, I've done it every single day.
Can you describe for the board the waste facility that you have?
Okay, so I have a little like actual waste basket that we order offline. It's like for this purpose and it company comes, takes it all away once a week. Clockwork.
So once
You gotta get rid of it somehow. Oh, twice a week. Twice a week. My husband-
So it's a special service, it's not, you don't use the town garbage facilities.
No.
Okay.
So how does it work then?
So every day, usually my husband goes and like cleans up the yard. Like you would your own dogs though, right? You don't want your, anyway, but, it goes into a waste receptacle and we put it out at the curb twice a week. Twice a week. I don't know the verbiage,
Sure.
You mentioned the 9 AM to 4 PM drop off and pick up. Is that Monday through Friday or do you operate on Saturdays, weekends as well?
That's Monday through Friday, and then I offer a pickup drop off time at 10 AM on weekends.
So you do board and or
Saturdays,
Saturdays?
I do offer a 10 AM pickup time on Saturdays.
Okay. One other question, other than your obvious love for dogs and the fact that you own 2 dogs, prior to this, did you have any specialized training or education?
So
on
I'm
dog?
currently getting my behavioralist license from Catch Institute, but I had years and years of work with rescue and lots of other experience with dogs prior to that. I had started caring for dogs, I guess over 2 years ago, I started actually doing care, which was different. And then it kind of morphed into creating an environment for dogs that they can learn in and grow in and also, thrive and get more confidence and all the things that you want in behaviorally speaking for a dog.
So you're getting a degree in behavioral, whatever?
Yeah, well, it's certification, yeah, in behavioral
For animals.
for dogs,
Okay.
specific to dogs, yeah.
Is there any sort of specialized insurance that you have to?
I do. I have
For
insurance.
bites or anything like that?
It covers my home and it also covers all of my employees who do in-home visits and walks.
Okay, thank you.
How many employees are there? You
I
said-
have 3 employees who do walks and in-home visits. So if I have a dog that I can't take, or I think is gonna do better at home, most dogs when they get to be 8 or 9 years old, they wanna be home anyway. They're ready to be in their own smells and their own environment, they wanna play with the other dogs. Usually those dogs stay home. I send people in 4 times a day, sometimes 5 times a day, depending on the needs of the animal. And yeah, they're all covered too. Anything that happens in their house, they have workers' comp.
So it's 3 employees and your husband? or-
Yeah, 3 employees and my husband and I. Well, they were prior employees. I had 2 people over the summer that were helping him.
if you had a dog that was insane, I mean, barked all the time, inside, outside, would you cut off that service for that?
Oh, that dog wouldn't be suited for my home.
Okay,
That I don't have the ability to take those dogs. That's not what I do. My environment is for the dogs that can socialize together. They learn manners from each other, they, can interact, but I don't.
you've not had a neighbor call you and say,
They
you
have
gotta
to
get
stay
rid of this, you gotta get rid of this dog? I mean,
They stay in their own home. And if they have that kind of issue, then they don't wanna be around other dogs anyway, for the most part.
And that's part of the temperament.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Well, I would have that history before I even met the dog, I would know, I'd ask those questions, what's their background, are they barkers, are they reactive? Have they ever had aggression, all those things, you go, what are their health issues? How are they on leash, what's their recall? All the things that you would wanna know about a dog, but if they're behaving poorly or aren't behaving well enough that they can be integrated into my daycare or my boarding, then they do not stay around. I don't have those.
And those questions that you had just listed out are part of an application process, correct?
Sorry to say that.
The questions like their history.
Oh,
and
yes.
Are part of your application.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I need to know everything about a dog before I care for them.
You use questions.
Yeah, I do. I do the question. Yes, okay, so it's an application process. That would make sense. Sorry.
What's the turnover in clients?
Like on a daily basis, what do you mean?
How often do people leave your service and somebody else comes in?
So for example, if you have
What's the turnover?
6 dogs today, how long do you anticipate having those dogs? Do you have dogs that are in your daycare for 6 months and then a dog will leave and go somewhere else? Or are they more long-term? So what is that?
I haven't had, I work closely, I am good friends with 2 other women who own businesses in this town that do something similarly, so we tend to recommend to each other, so we can all keep our numbers even. Which has been nice, it's been great to be able to send people, but I do have, the reason I set up my business the way I did is if I can't take a daycare dog or a boarding dog because I'm full, I can always send my people to their house and care for them in the home.
But so if
They stay, the clients tend to stay, they stay with me, I have a pretty great client.
you mentioned your people, I thought you said, yeah, it's you and your husband are the employees?
In the house, yeah.
Yeah, so who would your people be?
So Maggie O'Sullivan, she lives in Far Hills,
Okay.
Joseph.
other business owners.
Oh, sorry, okay, so women who own, so there's a couple of women who do similar things.
Okay.
in
Outside, got it.
Other towns in this area, that Munster.
But they work for you, right?
Yeah, similar to what I, yeah.
And they
that
work for you.
That we all, no, they don't work.
Separate business.
Totally
correct?
separate,
Okay.
totally separate.
But they're
Yeah.
paid by you.
No, they're not paid by me.
Oh.
No, they own a separate, their own dog care business and we're just friendly as colleagues.
Okay.
And I recommend to them and like when she wants to go on vacation, it's hard to when you work this business, but we give each other the opportunity.
I mean, I was under the assumption, so correct me if I'm wrong, I was under the assumption you had 3 employees plus your husband. Am I wrong?
That's correct,
So you do have 3 employees plus your husband.
but not at the house. The only people at the house are my husband and
Right, but the
Liberty
3.
Farm Dogs has 3
I.
employees plus the 2 that you and your husband.
Yes,
Plus,
5 employees to Liberty Farm Dogs.
no, 5 employees, yeah,
Okay.
including myself and my husband. Sorry, I misunderstood your question.
And the 2 other women are separate from those people. The 2 other women you're referring to who also run dog care
Yes,
businesses are
yeah.
separate from those people.
just going back to the sanitary piece, if I can just get I think correct me if I'm wrong, but you said for 2 times a week, you keep
There's a little duty garbage can outside the house, and 2 times a week, somebody comes and picks up the duty and brings it to a duty takeaway place.
Well put.
It doesn't. go
As far as the
to,
cleaning
like,
service.
Waste management doesn't
Municipal
take
waste.
it and bring it to a land, it goes to a.
No, they're
special
actually
duty.
called poop removers. They're, New Jersey gets them.
But it doesn't go into municipal land.
Right.
Eric,
So how many,
it's not mixed with your other household permit.
No,
So-
and as far as the cleaning service, if that's your asking, I do have S&G cleaners, they do like business grade clean on my house once a month, and then I clean nightly with every night, I mean, like we all do our house, but I use chemical grade, that is for kennels, so. Yeah, and also I take a history on every single dog, so health issues, I have everyone's veterinary number, I know all of their medical history, I get their shots, I get all of their history. It's part of what I require, so, you know, you can't be careful enough of like kennel cough and all those good things, so.
so how many clients do you have that are not at the house?
I would say 30% of my business is out of the home, maybe 35% of my business is out of the home.
Do you know roughly how many?
How many? Okay, so let's say I've got 150 clients. Maybe 50 of those are in-home visit people and walks. I might have closer to like 125 clients, and I think about like, yeah, 40 or 50 of them are probably walks and in-home visit. And it's not like I'm getting used every week, like the same people, like people go away, you know, not everyone wants their dog at a daycare every day, or not everyone needs boarding every other week, you know, it's people come through my system through the past 2 years. Or a year.
Okay, so there's approximately 100
Around 100
Clients.
100 clients, yeah.
that use your daycare facilities.
There's 100 clients that have used my facilities.
Right.
Or my-
Six to 8 dogs on site at any given time, but there are 100 clients out there
So-
that have used your services.
So, yeah, and that could be anything from just one walk, an in-home visit, it can be one daycare, it can be, you know, people just need to drop their dog off somewhere for an afternoon. It's a lot of, I mean, it's not every day that I have like a client that's coming for every single day. I have about one dog that comes to daycare every single day.
Okay, that's where I was getting with the
Yeah.
turnover
Okay,
question.
so yes, I have one dog that comes for daycare every day, and then Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I have three on those days. I don't do a huge daycare, it's really just for like learning and getting to try out. People have to go to work.
Okay,
I have a question. Before the last month's meeting, I had a chance to speak to Nancy, the health inspector, and to educate me on the process of this new type of business, because she told me about your typical kennel, and even though a kennel has its own rules and regulations, this new form, even though they still, meaning the health department, still has to look at this as a kennel, as opposed to this boutique home grooming type of business. So some of the things that she said to me, and I'd like you to give some testimony on, is the layout. Like she said, pretty important things like where would the isolation and designated rooms be for dogs that were either ill or dogs that were misbehaving. So things of that nature. So a floor plan of your operations, especially if it was provided tonight, so we could see how how you would actually function.
So, yeah,
So that's one thing. So the floor plan would be one, like how actually would function, where the locations would be for the special, because as she described to me, every dog needs a section for where their medicine, where their food goes. They need sick kennels, they need sick rooms. So these different things that she had told me, said, okay, well, that means I would need to at least see a floor plan and how this would function in a home of this size. I mean, it's not, from what we see here, it's not 13,000 square feet. It's a home. So to see what the floor plan would look like, to see if it
Do you want
works.
to hear my procedure for sick dogs?
Well,
And-
yep, but more important, Nancy from the health department would like to, and so for me as a board member, I would like to see something in the presentation form to say, here's the way on a floor plan, this would function. That was one of the things. You
Yeah.
did testify, and she said it was very important to meet all fire codes. You did testify, your attorney did, that you would meet all of that. She said that. And I'm assuming, that, one of the things that she did say and made mention, because these businesses go together, you would think it would be something natural, would be grooming. And she said that to make sure that in this applicant, that boarding would be compared to any grooming, which would require a whole different, set of circumstances that would not be, and I didn't realize that as a board member. That's why I asked her
Right,
as the health official. So I at least would make sure that, and if this would to go forward, that in the resolution, there would be no grooming at all, no grooming operations that would be part of this.
No interest,
Because-
no, I mean, not only no interest, but I don't have any plans to do, I never thought about that, actually, just never. Would never happen.
So I
I think
don't know if
interesting.
the board understood I'd like to see how it,
Yeah, I can
how
see
it
that,
works.
I can see the
That's-
development of how that might
so
happen.
In addition to the floor plan, I'd also like to see an emergency plan. Because in two aspects, one is how you handle an emergency on site, and second of all, how you get dogs to the vet if you're the only one that's
So
there.
I actually have, so I do have those plans set in place for dogs that are ill. I have a completely closed off basement that can always house a dog that's acting inappropriately or not, or is not well. However, I don't even do that. If I have a sick dog, my procedure is they go to the vet immediately upon any sense. I use an app. It allows me to have all of my clients and all of their pets information. I have their veterinary information. They get the call to the vet immediately. If it's an emergency, they go to the emergency hospital. But that dog goes back to their house. I have every single person's access instructions to their home. I go over with every single person that if your dog has a problem in my house, that they can be brought back to your house and we'll continue care for in-home. But if it's an illness, they're directly to the vet. And yeah, that has everything. We do not allow the dogs to stay in an environment. And I also, every dog that walks in here, I mean, it's not very many dogs that I see through every single day. I mean, it's like 5 dogs. I know these dogs at the back, I know when they're sick, they're not welcome. I can't take a sick dog. I'm too small. Really no kennel should. They do it all the time, but it really is really poor practice. People need to stay home.
And I have a question. Does this need, just talking to Mark's comment, does this need to, I'm just asking the question, does this need to be reviewed by the health department at all for this situation?
100%. Yeah, she said that.
In the event.
This would have to be reviewed by the health, I mean, we can't authorize it without the health department review.
We need their comments on this.
Yeah, she was very helpful when she explained there's a whole series of things
Right,
as the applicant was explaining the different like questionnaires, protocol, medical histories that
Mhm.
she went over, and then obviously they have to provide that in their yearly inspections. They even had a protocol on poop to it, that's thing to poop removal, duty call removal. They even had a protocol on that.
well, that's important because of
going-
other animals and everything else.
Going back to, previous application, I'm not sure, would this also qualify for, you mean that it's a business, or it would potentially be a business for ADA compliance into this? Do the clients actually enter the home, or is it something that would not require, I mean, since it's not in front of a planning board for lighting or all these different things that a normal business would have to go through to be approved.
Yeah.
The clients don't enter my home.
Who would have to,
David, are you familiar with, from
Not necessarily, no,
planning or an engineering perspective?
ADA. It would have to comply with any and all outside requirements of the building department. They would typically be the one that would have to look at this to see if ADA compliance is required.
If no one enters the facility, I don't think the dogs need it. but,
No,
Anyway.
yeah.
We have
Yeah,
these three gates.
they have to, it has to.
Typically, ADA
Becomes investigation.
Yeah.
I mean, inside the house, but out. Is that a ramp or stairs?
So I have a gate, those are gates and they're a holding area, there's stairs at the stop, but I actually do have a gate for dogs that, or I have a ramp for dogs that have trouble walking. But yes, so the first gate, you can see that red part, that's a holding area. So the dogs enter through there first, every dog gets put in the holding area, and I'm the one who brings the dog in. So all my other dogs are inside as each one gets brought in. So I interact with the dog first. I'm the first person to check out the dog. I make sure that the dog's doing great that day and wanting to come in and play. And yeah, and that's kind of how we let them in. But I do take everyone's history. I require medical documents. I require all of their shots and up-to-date vaccinations, their neutered, their microchip numbers, their all that good stuff.
So
So I can always provide that to any health inspector.
to Mark's question, do your clients ever get past the second gate?
No,
Okay.
no, they're not allowed. I'm
Okay.
sorry. No.
So no clients are in, so that answers the ADA question.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
many people are on site at any given time?
Two. And so if drop off and pick up, maybe like 3 at any given time,
I'm talking about as part of the Liberty Farm Dogs.
just
care
Mike
team.
and I.
So and there are always 2 people.
Yeah, if I ever have to leave, Mike's there. The dogs are never left alone. But yeah, most 99% of the time I'm there with Mike. Yeah.
I'm thinking about in case of emergencies.
If they
where
do
2
have
dogs
one case of
decide to fight,
emergency,
and
yeah.
you've got dog bites, and you've got 2 different vets that you have to go to.
oh yeah, so I have separate areas. That's another reason why I only do 8 dogs is because I do have, so I have a couple rooms that the dogs get separated into. So I have the main living room, my 2 dogs stay there. I do have a crate for 1 dog, and then I've got,
What's it quiet?
oh, sorry, guest bedroom.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, you can see it. So there's the guest bedroom. There's a bunch of areas for the dogs to separate. I have 2 bedrooms upstairs, if I ever needed them. I have a basement downstairs, and I also have a separated room for the
Okay.
laundry.
So back to Mark's question, I think we need to see the facility plan.
Do you have that you could put up digitally now?
I mean, we can look that up. Sure. It's,
So we do have what we took, which should play we did a sort of like walkthrough video of the space. So we have that Haley.
But you don't have
We
a
have
plan of
still,
the
we don't
space.
have, like an architectural floor plan.
well,
Right. I think that's needed.
okay, I can get you floor plans.
Is there an ordinance for home businesses? Do you know what it is? Or do we need it?
Yes, there is an ordinance. Absolutely.
So
That's why they're here.
our planner can address,
It's not
there's
permitted.
both an ordinance for a home business, and then this particular R5 zone is a conditional use, allows particular uses, one of which is a professional use, so it could be a doctor or a dentist office, that sort of use also. So our planner is prepared to address both the home business and the professional use there.
Okay, so the home business that you're saying is that
the max.
right now, today, it's authorized for like a professional person?
So there's
Conditional
there's 2 separate uses.
Yeah.
The home office use the home business use is allowed as an accessory use in a residential zone, and you're not allowed, there are conditions related to that as well. Even though it's not technically a conditional permitted use, because it's allowed as an accessory use. One of those is that you can't have guests or clients come to your property.
You can't have
So-
people come to your property.
No,
Not
the
allowed.
professional use does allow for guests. There are separate and different conditions for that
Yes.
use, which are permitted in this zone as well. So there are other uses contemplated for this residential zone that could be as intense or more intense than the use that we're proposing.
What was the second one you said? The first one was professional, but I didn't hear what
No,
was.
the first one was home use, second was professional use.
Okay.
Kelly, could you just qualify one more time? Because this is the 3rd time I heard it, and I just want to make sure I'm clear, because the number of dogs is going to be pretty important. I wrote down one thing, I heard another thing, then it was clarified again, and then you overwrote it again, and that's why.
I'm
So
sorry.
I'd just like to know, is there the total number of dogs in, at maximum on your property is 8,
8,
with 2 of yours inside the 8?
yes, which is why 6 and
Okay.
8 sounds so
So
confusing.
it's 6 new ones.
Yeah, 6 is
That's-
the
okay.
additional, yes.
So it's 8 total
Sorry,
dogs.
yeah.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
How tall are the fences around the yard?
6 feet, 1.5, yeah, 6 feet. They're pretty tall, our neighbors can't see us. 6 feet, and then we also have the bushes along the side, and then we have a fence dug down as well. A wire fence that goes below the property, so there's no digging under.
Is there a fence where the green is?
That, yes, there's a fence behind that, that's just for quieting.
So there's
Some
a fence
privacy.
around the entire property at
Yeah.
6 feet tall.
Is it a solid fence? Or-
Yes, it's a solid
or a
fence, it's
solid-
not slates, it's a solid fence.
Isn't it wider where the bushes are?
What do you mean? No.
What?
It just got, sorry.
So to confirm with the board, the fence that's shown on this picture is a solid white fence,
Yes.
correct?
it's a
And then you
solid-
also noted that under the fence, so below ground,
Yes.
there is
Wire.
chain wire,
Yeah.
so that
fencing,
dogs
so the
can't
dogs
dig
can't
under,
dig
correct?
under, yes.
Okay.
And just to clarify, speaking of that fence, and I don't know if it was in the engineering report or in the zoning report, but I believe that fence I believe that fence is not on your property. If I'm reading this map correctly.
Surprise.
I don't know where I read it in
Oh.
somebody's report.
My fence is on the-
It shows it's off the property.
On the,
Really?
well, on the west side.
I don't know what direction.
Yeah, on the west, it's on the west side.
That entire length of, I believe it's that green, the green.
Oh.
Well, it may actually be. No, I don't know.
Where the green is.
Because I don't remember what professional report I read speaking about addressing the actual fence, but.
It might have been the request for them, the previous
That's
owners
what,
wanted
that's
to
what
build.
that's what this site, I mean, this is the certified survey and the fence is not on the property.
Right,
Well, it's slightly
it's off property,
off where the,
Whose property is it on then?
lot
Lot
14, on lot 14.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that I know it's in one of these two reports,
looks like a couple. And even in the back.
a minimum couple of feet.
You actually still in the back.
Yeah, it's actually stood like out on the side.
Right, that's between.
Lot 14 and 13.
It's the,
She literally have my neighbor, I mean, I could have my neighbor, she'd wonder, like, be super happy to tell you that it's either fine or we're happy to move the fence, I mean, that's not.
that's the fence that's behind the greenery. That's the fence that's not on your property.
Is the greenery in front of your
Yeah, but
fence?
they have the same fencing, like, if you see, they have their own fencing as well. That's similar,
Yes.
Well, they have their own fencing,
yeah,
because it's their fence.
oh, so I need to put, is it not, I think mine connects it, yeah, so it is mine.
Well-
So what likely happened is somebody built your fence and connected it to the existing one, so
Yeah.
that they didn't build a fence and a fence and create a
Oh,
small alleyway
okay.
between
Who
it. So
who put that fence in? Did you put it in?
No, we did.
So it may
we
not be
moved in
your
with
fence,
it.
you're just using it.
We moved it with it like that, yeah. We had like the extra gauge,
Do you know how old the fence is? When it was installed?
I'm sure I can find out.
No, it's
So the perimeter fencing that's on the property today was there when you purchased the property?
Yes, yeah, it's been there for 3 years that we've been there.
So the fence that's the fence that's shown on the plan belongs to the neighbors.
So that's our neighbors. Do we need to build another?
So I
fence?
guess, Mr. Rego, for purposes of this comment and the condition, I think we either would need to obtain an easement from that neighbor in order to not only connect to the fence, but a restriction to leave the fence or a new fence on our side of the bushes.
well, let me ask you this, where the greenery is,
Yeah.
Is there a fence now on the other side of that greenery that we can see, and then your greenery in front?
Yes,
And that's the only fence? Okay.
yes,
What we're looking at is the fact that a couple of feet over your property lines where the fence is, and in between, there's a greenery.
Mhm.
Now, if that fence was taken down, could the greenery prevent dogs from, I'm not saying it's gonna be taken
well,
down.
I mean, it does act as a barrier, yeah.
It is a barrier.
It does act as a barrier. I mean, obviously I need the fence behind it as well, just because that would be crazy not to have.
If you
Okay.
maintain, yeah,
But yeah,
So it
it
looks
does
like-
provide, it's definitely a
Right.
barrier and it's why we.
do you know the
keep
neighbor
it.
that lives on that property?
I do.
Are they here?
I don't think it's Sandy.
Not that, okay, okay,
Well,
Sandy's not here, but I could call her right now.
no.
no, it's worse than that, because it looks like lot 14 is owned by Somerset Hills Builders.
It's rented, actually, the next door neighbors,
Yeah, so it's owned
And
by
which I've
Somerset Hills
actually spoken with
Builders.
them. So when I went for this variance, I got a list of everyone that was in 200 feet of me and they were listed as one of the owners, so I reached out to them and they were very kind and supportive, so,
But they're the ones that own the fence.
so I have to get it done, yeah. I can build a fence, I'm not opposed to doing that.
I don't know if the
I'm happy
board's,
to build a fence.
I don't know if the board's thinking that, but at a minimum, could you get some sort of, moving forward, could you get some sort of letter or something from the builders? Just saying,
Yeah.
we know the fence is there, we have no problem. It's gonna
No,
stay
worse
there.
than that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the people that own that house could sell it, and then the fence goes with the house.
Okay.
So,
Then you have,
then
they have approval with no fence.
so
Yeah.
one of two things is needed in my mind. Either an easement to use that fence that becomes a legal document, or putting in a second fence. If this application is approved, right? One of two things, either you have to get an easement to use it, or you have to put one in. Because you can't have a situation where all of a sudden the fence goes away
No,
because.
I understand.
House goes away.
As your attorney would tell you, an easement is basically a formal way of saying, we know that the fence is here, but you're entitled to use it, enjoy it, whatever, and that's then recorded. So if someone else buys this property down the road, they're locked into that easement as well. So you're protected, and they know what's going on.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah, I'm happy to read that.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
an
you
easement
can't take
is,
that away.
is then recorded, as your attorney would tell you, so everybody's happy.
Sure,
Everybody knows what's going
sure.
on.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to build a fence.
Whichever is cheaper.
Don't put up a new fence.
So the question I was gonna ask that I think you already answered is, did you put all this in here since you bought the property in January? But basically it was all here
So a lot of it
because
was,
it's owned by the
A lot of it
neighboring
was.
properties.
a lot of it was, we made the additional upgrades for the dogs, for the animals, to make it safe for the animals, the prior owner.
Which is the digging of the cyclone fence down up below grade.
Sorry, say that one more time?
You put in the cyclone fence below grade.
Yeah,
That's your.
and
And
added
the
some
gates.
additional.
And the gates,
And the gates, yeah, the double gates.
The below ground fence, that's the entire perimeter of the yard?
Yes.
Okay, so including the western side with the
Yes.
greenery. Okay.
It's on the other people's property.
Mhm.
That is because is it under the existing fence?
It's like right below it, it's like,
In
right,
line- in line
like,
with
right,
the
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like you
It's on the
just
next
go
slide.
down
Yeah.
and. It's
For all
about,
intents and purposes.
I don't know, 4, 3.
Also, I have a question, maybe, your attorney can answer it. With regards to the, engineering report under question number 5, or bullet point number 5. On the former application where it says, under the application of 17-09 Murphy, the board approved substantial additions to the existing dwelling, which included adding a second story, a second additional to the rear, and an attached one car with a story above, as well as a deck. The approval also included the removal of the existing garage and gravel parking area and a new configured driveway to the southeast corner of the property. are we still looking at the gravel parking and garage that's supposed to be removed? Or is that something that I'm not understanding?
Mr. Malone, that was part of a prior application that was not acted upon by the prior owner, and this owner is not intending to act on
So
that.
this would supersede, if this is approved, this would
If approved,
supersede
it would supersede,
and make
Okay,
previous.
thanks.
Okay.
but those improvements were not made.
Were never made, and what we're looking at is prior to this 17-09, correct? The house
So,
stands as it was, nothing got changed.
other than the addition of the second gate, so there were
Yeah.
some modifications, but in terms of the structure,
The
the
structure of the
building
whole-
structure,
yes.
those have not changed.
I understand number 5, then, thank you.
Board of Adjustment plan.
I don't know, he didn't say, he just said 17-09 Murphy.
It was likely a board of adjustment,
Yeah.
if it was single family.
Adjustment number.
I'm wondering if that was the shed application that we heard.
They wanted to build it above the garage. They wanted to like do it in.
Because he called it out, it's called out here and said, look, we got this, this, and this, and
It
then.
wouldn't be planning board unless it's a subdivision.
Yeah.
Site.
So who called, was it John called it out?
No,
This
Bob,
is in Mr. Brightly's
this is-
review letter,
Okay.
He called it out.
There's a site.
number
And he
5.
said he couldn't really address it because of the aerials that were provided, he couldn't understand it. Look at this picture, you can't see if there's a garage, you can't see if there's gravel, you can't see anything.
Did you purchase the property from a Murphy?
My husband did.
Oh, okay, and that was 3 years ago, give or take?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that's why the survey is certified to Murphy.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I was gonna ask that question too. Where's Bob's letter?
Right here, no, read it. It's right up and down.
There.
Here's
When I saw that, I was like, yeah. I think that is a benefit, because that's the garage and that's
And
gravel, and there's maybe a configuration.
Oh, apparently there is another fence.
6 years.
Yeah, there's a double fence. I didn't.
Might they forget that on Saturday is being.
Oh, okay.
It's probably 6 years.
Okay.
First number is 6 years.
I can't see it there either, but yeah, apparently we have a double fence. I don't know.
Yeah, well, this will make. Did you mention a double fence? I
Yeah,
heard
yeah,
something.
my father-in-law knew better than I did.
There's a fence that comes from the house.
Why don't you hold on, and when we're done with the witnesses, then the chairman will allow whoever wants to say something.
Or the attorney may want to present additional witnesses.
Right, right. Yeah,
Wow, I do not remember the Murphy application.
I don't even. It's about 6 years.
6 years ago, I was chair.
And I was sitting right next to you.
I do not remember that application.
There were probably a lot of things on it.
No, this is 6 years ago. I remember a lot, but not that one. Okay,
So as of the 125 clients that you have,
Sorry.
of
say
the
that.
125 or so clients that you have, you would say there's only maximum 8 dogs that are staying there for any, like even for a day. And the others are what, dog walking, or what are the other
Yeah,
clients?
dog walking.
Dog
In-home visits,
walking.
yeah, so someone would do like in-home visits 4 to 5 times a day, half hour, get the dog exercise, played.
but you're not doing 100 of those every day.
No, no.
Some limited number, like
Any
20.
given time, I probably have anywhere from like 10 to 14 families that rely on me. Yeah.
Okay,
Something like that.
okay, so this is an intermittent business based on your client's daily demands.
Yeah, that pretty much, it's just based on who's going away, when they go, but yeah, I mean, every day, just about every day, I have a dog dropped off and picked up,
Okay,
at least one. Actually, today, it was the first time we didn't have a dog sleeping at our house since April.
okay. Are there any other questions from the board? You have one, David?
Just a few rapid fire questions. Thank you very much for your testimony so far. This life insurance, You're only boarding dogs, right? There's no other animals being boarded,
Yeah.
cats, rodents.
No cat.
Um,
Careful cats in in there.
Yeah, do you have any age limits for the dogs? So are you boarding puppies as well, or?
So 6 months, you know, they have to be, vaccinated and their shots done, and then, yeah, and so 6 months and they have a behaviorally abuse, they can come to daycare. I do tend to phase out dogs around 8 or 9, so they stop wanting to really come to daycare, they kind of want to be in their own house, you know, so.
10-year-old Shih Tzu doesn't want to.
No, exactly, yeah.
I know you said, during this morning pickup, you typically either have 1 to 3 vehicles that are stopping there. Is that the same for evening pickup as well?
So evening pickup is usually less.
Okay.
Usually less because dogs are sleeping over, usually it's either 1 or 2 dogs being picked up from daycare.
And those are set pickup and drop off time, so it's not like homeowners are coming at 1 o'clock to pick up a dog, it's either they drop off or they pick up at those set times.
I require the dog to stay for daycare if they can't pick up at 9 a.m. Then they have to pick up at 4. They have another option for pickup time, it's just like later.
Regarding the aspect of dogs being outside, having a percentage of the time that dogs spend inside versus outside, I mean, mostly indoors and mostly outdoors.
So it's relative. It's relative to weather, it's relative to the dogs. Usually it looks like mostly like what you would think for any dogs, like they play for an hour, they're roughhousing, they want to run around, play with each other, and then they get tired. And then they need a nap, so they all come in together and they all kind of like lay on the couch and nap, and I get to do some work. And then they go again and go out, and they want to see some more, it's just in and out, it's the flow of the day. Often if I do have a young dog who's 6 months old and is excited and, you know, hasn't been worn out yet, they get, you know, they get put into the room and they get a stimulating activity like a bone or a supplement or something to keep their attention, so they learn. You know.
And then, not to harp back out of the waste receptacle, but is that odor proof?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it's sealed.
all right, that's all I have for now, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks.
You said it's sealed?
Yeah, it's sealed.
Any other questions from the board?
I just wanted to be clarified what the variance, the issue is why is the variance needed? Because right now, it's zoned for what? What is this property zoned for today?
So it's the principal permitted use, and our planner can go through the particular details as well in his testimony, is for single family home. And then there are conditional uses and accessory uses that are permitted, but this particular business doesn't fit into either of those categories based on the conditions that are associated with that.
So
Okay.
it's not permitted, thanks.
So it's not permitted by anybody.
You know, even as a conditional
Yeah.
or anything.
Right.
I mean, would it be if it was just a professional lawyer or something like that? Or not?
We did
That would-
not have clients coming to the house,
Right, we didn't
yes.
have- if it was just like a professional lawyer
Mhm.
or some person doing that.
So a lawyer could also fall under the conditional category of a professional use and could have clients come to the house. So there's 2 separate categories with 2 separate lists of conditions related to them. So our planner can go through in detail what those are, and so it's not that all uses that are principal permitted uses, conditional principal uses, or accessory uses aren't allowed to have, you know, clients or patients at the house. There is a category under professional use that's a conditionally permitted use that would allow for that, but there are other conditions that go with it, and this particular use it doesn't qualify as professional because it's not a lawyer, an accountant, a doctor, a dentist, a psychologist, somebody who has a professional license essentially.
Right, and it has several clients compared to what a professional might have. You know, 1 or 2 people.
Yes, so our planner can provide that testimony, but for example, you could have a dentist in this zone as a conditional use, and if they meet all of the conditions, depending on how their actual professional operation works, they could have someone on site parked, 2 cars in their driveway for 2 hours if someone's having some sort of dental procedure that would take that long. And more people frequently throughout the course of the day, whereas Ms. Connolly's use is, traffic heavy in terms of when cars are coming to the property in the morning in a particular time frame and in the afternoon in a particular time frame.
Are there any other variances that are being sought?
No,
Okay.
there is a pre-existing non-conforming variance on the property relating to a front yard setback on the Garibaldi Street side of the property, but since no improvements are proposed to the outside.
That's gonna be the same.
It's gonna be the same, it's not changing, correct?
Is there any discussion about traffic on this? Is there any discussion on traffic on this?
We do not have a separate traffic expert, as Ms. Connolly described. She, and based on her operations since January and when she went public with it in April, she sees about 1 to 3 cars at a given time during the pickup in the morning and drop off, or sorry, drop off in the morning and pick up in the afternoon.
Okay. Any other board questions? For Patty? Any questions from the public? From Ms. Conlon?
Oh, I see.
No questions, I live right there, Murray Road, right across the street.
So.
And
Are there any questions?
Oh, I
from Ms.
just- sorry.
It's not, that's not comment, no, just questions.
What if I have?
If you have a question, you're on. I'm asking for questions. Are there any questions? Okay, doesn't sound like there are any questions for Ms. Conlon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's it, yep, that's us, that's.
So our next witness is our planner, Matt Flynn. And he'll be providing testimony relating to the justification for the use variance.
Good evening. Could you raise your right hand? Thank you. With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Sure, Matthew Flynn, Flynn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Flynn, for the board, can you please describe your background and education?
Sure, I have my master's degree from Rutgers in planning and public policy. I have my professional planner's license in the state of New Jersey. I have my AICP license, which is the national licensure for planners, both of which are current and in good standing. I've testified before about 100 or so boards like this across the state.
And you've been accepted as a professional planner by those boards.
And I have been accepted before the Bernardsville Planning Board. Actually, I take that back, that was Burns Township.
Thank you. When did you start?
About 4 years ago.
You got your degree 4 years ago?
About that. 2018. I think it was. I literally, I don't know why I always forget this. I've had my AICP license since 2020 and my professional planner's license since 2020 as well. And I graduated in 2018.
No. Accepted as a plan, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, so to the board members' comment about the use variance that we're seeking, I'll get into that. This is a D1 use variance application. Basically, the enhanced burden of proof for a D1 use variance is known as the site suitability standard, which I'm sure this board is well aware of. Basically, we have to look at this particular site and what makes this particular site suitable for the use in question. We heard in detail what the applicant is proposing to do here. And this is sort of a niche type use in that it's not necessarily a commercial kennel. This is something that is needed. It's something that's beneficial for pet owners. Not every dog is ready and able to just jump right into a commercial kennel where they might not get the personalized care that the applicant is offering. And to that end, I would say that the use is really more suitable for a residential neighborhood as opposed to a commercial neighborhood. And that's exactly what we're proposing here. It's something that is, I think, going to fit right in with the neighborhood fabric and not essentially alter what's already happening here. It is a house today. It's going to remain a house if this application is approved. The same people are going to live there and operate the business. We saw the exhibit here. This is, I I would say that the property does have a pretty generous, front yard. And we can see what's labeled, drop off on the bottom right of the property. And basically, I think the point is that this is going to have the appearance like it does today as having a lot of openness in terms of light, air, and open space. Again, we are in a residential neighborhood, and that is why we're requesting the use variance. But obviously, that large front yard is going to remain, and I think the drop-off area obviously is there today anyway, so we're not essentially altering the actual development footprint on the site today. This is a corner lot, so it does allow for that easy drop-off situation without altering that, again, that generous front yard. So this is not going to scream non-residential in that regard. And I will get into the fact that there are other uses that are permitted here conditionally in just a moment. In terms of the special reasons or the benefits of the application, this comes from the municipal land use law. Like I said, this is going to still look and feel like a residential dwelling. It's not substantially dissimilar from a homeowner that might have a large number of pets. Again, this applicant is not proposing a commercial kennel. It's not 20, 30 dogs on premises at one time. It's no more than 8 dogs. And I'm sure we are willing to stipulate to some level of intensity that's allowable on the property. Like I said, this is a less intense atmosphere for dogs with special needs. It is something that's needed for pet owners. As was testified, there are no changes to the existing mass and scale of the development. As our attorney mentioned, there is one pre-existing non-conforming condition, which is a front yard. That's not changing, and all of the other conditions, the other front yard, the rear yard, the coverage, the building height, all of that's in compliance, so this is not going to scream as something that stands out in the context of the neighborhood. It's going to fit in just like it does today. And also just in terms of benefits, I do have the statistic from the American Pet Products Association that there was more than a 100% increase in the pet care industry between 2010 and 2021. So a pretty substantial increase in pet care.
What was that percentage? I'm sorry.
More than a 100% increase in the pet care industry between 2010 and 2021.
Thank you.
And I'll just add that there is a footnote in the Medici case law where the D1 use variance statutory criteria comes from that discusses, in quotes, uses gaining currency, end quotes. And basically that means that there are obviously land uses in evolving fields, certain uses that weren't in existence 30 years ago are now in existence, and this is sort of one of those uses that is gaining currency, and I think the board can look at that as a rationale for approval here. All of the above purposes of the municipal land use law, including purpose A, promotion of the general welfare, purpose G, variety of uses in appropriate locations, purpose I, desirable visual environment, and purpose M, efficient use of land. The flip side to that is, I really think the heart of this application is the negative criteria, no substantial detriment to the public or to the zone plan. Like I said, this is going to still look and feel like a residential dwelling. No substantial changes from a mass and scale standpoint. No additional employees aside from the residents themselves. In terms of employees, the applicant and her husband are the only two, I'll say, employees in the house or ever, really. The other employees are just dog walkers or home visits. So to the extent that we need to talk about the impact of the intensity of the site itself, we certainly need to look at the number of people coming in and out in terms of employees. And I think that certainly mitigates any impacts of the application. The applicant really went through most of what I would consider the negative criteria, the qualifications that the dog needs to meet. They are temperament tested. There's a meet and greet. She doesn't take in any reactive dogs that might pose a problem in terms of barking or physical harm or the like. And now get into the fact that there are other conditionally permitted uses. And I will say one of them, we were talking about home-based office. That actually is not one of the permitted conditional uses in the R5 zone. And the reason that's important is that home-based office is, it does not allow employees or guests rather to come onto the property. That's not permitted anyway in this zone. What is permitted here is what's called professional uses. And that's what council mentioned, the definition of that includes doctors, dentists, engineers, teachers, artists, musicians, lawyers, architects. All of these types of businesses could go here, so long as the person operating the business resides on that dwelling, which is the case here. And those are conditional uses. So I would say this is not substantially dissimilar from one of those uses. Certainly in terms of traffic generation, in terms of the clients coming and going. In fact, I'd say that if this were a doctor or a dentist, you'd have cars parked there for an extended period of time, however long their appointment is. In this case, it's just drop-offs, which I think has less of a negative visual impact on the residential neighborhood, having cars parked there for an extended time that don't live there. So also in terms of the municipal land use law, which is the state statute that zoning looks at, family daycares are actually a permitted use in all residential zones. And the requirements for those daycares reverts back to the bulk standards for the residential uses that are permitted in that zone. So daycares are permitted here per state statute, and they would be required to comply with the setbacks, the coverage, the building height, all those bulk standards that any home would need to comply with in the R5 zone. And like I said, this is a substantially compliant structure.
Mr. Flynn, on that point, of course, the municipal land use law is talking about daycare for humans, but in your professional opinion,
Yes.
This particular use can be compared to it at least to have some sort of benchmark that we can use.
Good point. I definitely did not want to sound like I was trying to imply that included dog daycare, so thank you for saying that. The point is, just for comparison purposes only, I think the nature of a daycare use for humans would be substantially similar to a daycare use for dogs in terms of pickups, drop-offs, and the like. The municipal land use law goes on to talk about what the level of scrutiny should be based on for a daycare for humans. And it specifically talks to the fact that it should focus on the intensity of the land use itself. So applying some level of conditions in terms of how many kids are allowed on the premises at one time based on maybe the size of the lot or whatever the board sees as necessary to control the intensity of the land use. And I think that a similar conversation has already been happening here. So I think we're on the right track in that regard. Again, in terms of negative criteria, with so few dogs being taken care of at one time, I would say this is not substantially different than a homeowner that could, as of right, have a lot of pets. And this is an applicant that does have experience here. It's not just somebody that decides, I just want to open this up. This is an applicant that does this for a living, that's passionate about it, that knows what to do in terms of safety, cleanliness, odor, and noise. I don't think there are any outstanding issues in that regard. So I think all said, this is a appropriate application. I think it's a sort of novel land use that I'm not surprised we don't see in the zoning ordinance. Again, it's not your commercial kennel. This is something that I think really does fit in with the residential fabric of the neighborhood. And especially considering the fact that we do have those conditional uses here that could go here, I think speak to the fact that it's not going to stand out as anything that doesn't belong here. So with that, if there's any questions, that's all I have.
So one of the things you mentioned was 100% increase in the pet care industry. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Oh, I do.
I want to hear it from the planner.
All I know is that's a statistic that I saw,
Yeah.
and I don't want to assume what that means, because frankly, specifically what that, I don't know.
Okay.
But it's the pet care industry, so.
You wanna look since COVID specifically is when the rise really happened. People were home, they were getting dogs, and now they all have to go back to work.
And that's really where the spike in what I saw in the industry amongst.
What is the pet?
I
care?
understand. your
What
question.
is it?
What
He's
is,
asking what is considered pet care?
Oh, okay. Boarding,
I would assume it's all of these things, but again, I don't wanna.
daycares.
you didn't look at it, okay. You mentioned a couple of times the generous front yard, how does that benefit the business?
I said it benefited the neighborhood, basically, by retaining the general openness of the front yard. We're not paving the front yard for pickups and drop-offs, creating a commercial parking lot. I think that retaining that open front yard is to the benefit of the community.
Okay. And since the applicant doesn't own all of the fences, do you still have the same opinion?
I do, because if we need to, we will build another fence. If that's something that the board feels we need to do, that's certainly not, the applicant is okay to do that. You're talking about the fence that's not on our property.
Right.
Correct. We're okay to build that fence if that's necessary, so yes.
Okay. Those are my questions. Anybody else have any questions?
When you talk about family daycare, what does that mean? You said family daycare is allowed here. What is that?
Correct. So based on the municipal land use law, and which is the state statute that governs zoning, while I'm saying this, I'm going to just look at the definition, but just based on my memory, what that means is a home-based business that operates as a daycare. So they take in children and watch them for.
Really? So that's allowed.
Yes,
Okay,
and I'll
not just,
defer to your
not
board
just the
planners
immediate
to-
family, but they can have other people come.
Correct.
They could drop your kid off. However, what I will add is that there are state standards for the family daycare industry. There's nothing we know of for here yet.
Right.
There are inspections for the state, for family daycare facilities.
Exactly.
This is why we need something from the Board of Health.
Absolutely. The,
That's the reason why, David, she
Yes.
said that this, even though it might be boutique or hobby or whatever they want to call it, she technically has to call this a kennel. That's what you'll see from the report, that's what she said.
And there are, just to answer your question, there are the standard inspections in terms of fire, safety, and the like.
Department.
just coming back, if I can, for a second with the employees, he said, I just want to get this straight, because it's a little confusing. Right now, there's only 2 employees on the premises, meaning yourself and your husband. That's it. The other 3 employees are not on the premises?
No, never, no.
They're not on the, so they're
Um,
outside the premises.
If, God forbid, I ever had to leave and Mike had to leave and we had an emergency, then my employee Maggie would come and be with the dogs, yeah.
Okay.
But that's it, that's the only time they're here, at my house.
They're just on the payroll.
I train them at their houses, or like I train them on the house that they're going to's dog, so that's where we go to get, they don't come to me.
The other thing you mentioned is that this is good for special needs dogs. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so by having less dogs, I mean, I think this is the most straightforward way to answer that, and if you need more, just let me know. I think by having less dogs, it opens up the applicant to be able to give more personalized care to each dog. And I think, a commercial kennel, that's all. Able to accommodate more dogs would not have that level of personalized care. Also, for dogs that are not, that do have these special needs, that are used to being in their own home, this is an environment that is a home. So it's not a commercial facility where maybe they're in a cage or anything like that, so it's more familiar.
Yeah, the opportunity for a dog to socialize and be in an environment that they're comfortable in is an opportunity for growth. Their confidence grows, they become more comfortable, less anxious, they're not having anxious behaviors when their family is away, gnawing at their paws or chewing their tails, or, the things, like, I see the dogs all day long, they're in my face all day long, they're with me all day long. So I know what everyone's doing. I know who needs more support. I know who doesn't. I know who's having a great time. And I know when there's a dog that needs to, it's a thunderstorm. And you guys, I'm sure, have experienced a dog in a thunderstorm, they need support. They're loved. a lot like children. I know it's not the same, but.
Right,
Just so you're aware, we receive Board of Health input on almost every application. In fact, I'm surprised we didn't have one here, but, well, I'm gonna have to get one. So it's not unique to you, it's everything, yeah.
And I was called by them, so they told me to reach out after I went through this process.
Can I ask a question with the comparison to child daycare? You say that under the municipal land use law, if this were a child daycare, it would be an outright permitted use?
Correct.
So then when you were talking about the board setting reasonable limits on the capacity, how would that even happen if it's an outright permitted use? It wouldn't come to the zoning board, right?
The state would regulate how many, based on square footage of the
Yeah.
space that you're allocating for childcare, you're allowed to have X many children. The state has regulations about that stuff. They are very strict. about it.
square foot.
Yeah.
Right, and the reason I said that in the first place was just to qualify the fact that I did say the requirements revert to the residential requirements, but there is obviously certain things that have to be in place, such as number of kids.
The municipal land use law does permit uses that you wouldn't think would be permitted in single family residential zones, like certain types of groups on homes. David, if you want to chime in on this, there are applications that you wouldn't think would be permitted, but they are as a single family use, basically.
Exactly. The land use law can be a little bit confusing in this regard too. Family daycare homes are specifically identified by the municipal land use law as a permitted use in all residential districts. And then you have childcare centers, which are identified as permitted use in all non-residential zoning districts throughout New Jersey. But don't shoot,
childcare is not,
don't shoot the messenger.
it's not,
No, they can be in non-residential zones.
Yes.
the childcare has to be in non-residential zones?
Childcare centers are permitted in any non-residential zoning district.
Right.
Family daycare is permitted in all residential districts.
So we haven't been involved with this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the point of my question though was, so the capacity limit for a child daycare, as Sherman said, is going to be set by the state regulations.
Yeah, it would be pursuant to the Family Daycare Provider Registration Act.
Okay.
And that limits not only by square footage, but also by caregiver. So there are certain ratios that you have to have for a caregiver per child. So if it's an owner occupied, one person, depending on the age of the children that you have in your home, you may only be able to have 4, you may be able to have, 6, then it jumps up to, so it depends on a combination of factors, but it is regulated by the state. So there's another layer of requirements.
So that like the health and safety regulations that apply to the kennels, and they do exist. I mean, I was looking at them, they talk about making sure the animals have light, temperature, that the enclosures have to be a certain size, so the, things like that. But those regulations, to my understanding, do not have a capacity limit based on square footage, and that's the applicant's understanding as well.
Yeah.
They don't have a capacity limit?
That's mine, yeah.
Do you have any cages in your facility?
No,
Sorry?
child daycare.
I have crates.
Do you have
I have,
cages?
yes, I've got crates.
You do?
Yeah.
Child daycare,
They're kept in the basement area, so they're not kept upstairs where they are generally, but if we need them.
so you have kennels.
I do, yeah, I mean, I have crates, not kennels.
But I mean, if you have kennels, aren't those kennels required to have certain standards based on the laws of the state?
So I don't know the exact answer to that, although it's also interesting because you go to like a pound and that's a completely different set of standards than like your commercial kennel.
Right, but I'm just talking about any kennel in the state of New Jersey has to have certain standards and requirements for those dogs to be kept, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Our
so
Board of
then-
Health might know.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Board of Kennel, because that's an important
Yes.
concept, that the kennels have very strict requirements.
So I, as far as I think like providing an adequate atmosphere for the dog, like,
I don't know the specifics of it, I just know that there are certain standards for it.
well, I'm sure like as far as hygienic standards, I definitely comply with those. I comply with the standard kennel as far as those goes, and the health department can.
We don't know what the.
We don't know what they are. Just to,
Board of Health has to chime in.
yeah, The other question I have to our planner is you had mentioned about child daycare. Does that also mean that children can stay overnight or is it limited to daycare?
Well, there's family daycare and then childcare centers. Without being too familiar with the licensing for each, I have seen applications for specifically childcare centers, and they're always daytime operating. Family daycare, I believe, would be daytime operation as well.
Right, which would be daytime, not evening. Yeah. Okay, that's a difference.
Mr. Flynn, you spoke about the advantages of this corner lot in the front yard and all. Explain it, talk to me a little bit about what you see or what we see from this picture with regards to the rear yard being basically 20 feet from the bedroom of that neighbor. Like if it was a yard to yard or butt to butt or backyard to backyard, you'd have, let's say if we were in the same zone and the lots were chopped all equally, that amount of green space would be equal to the amount of green space before you would get to another living residence. So here, can you speak to that advantage, disadvantage with that fence 20 feet basically from the bedroom? Because you were saying this
Right.
lot is so much of an advantage. So explain that.
Well, it's an advantage in some ways. I didn't specifically say that basically, what I will say to that is, this is an applicant that does this for a living. You could have a neighbor that has a dog that just barks constantly, that does nothing about it. You have an applicant here that is going to stop that dog, bring him inside, knows all the tricks and techniques to stop that dog from barking. So understandably, this is a residential zone, and I think one of the advantages of having someone that's doing this professionally is that either she knows how to stop it or she can bring the dog inside, and she has really a responsibility to stop it, whereas a homeowner might just not care.
And Mr. Flynn, as you had testified to, the property in all other respects except for that front yard along Garibaldi Street complies with the zoning requirements, correct?
Correct.
So the appropriate amount of separation is provided for as to this property.
Yes.
Were you surprised that when you bought this, were you surprised that this zoning did not include this use as a use? I mean, did you realize that when you bought it?
I knew that I knew that we were allowed to have in-home businesses. My business came after, a year after we had lived there. So it wasn't like we made improvements to make it work, but it wasn't like I bought this home for that purpose. My husband bought the home and I lived in.
Any other questions on board? Questions?
Just a couple follow-up questions, Simon.
Sure.
It's just to clarify, we were talking earlier about professional uses and home-based business. And I think you said that home-based business wasn't permitted in the zoning district.
Based on my understanding, I don't believe that it is.
I
Correct me if I'm
think
wrong.
it is, yeah, so from my understanding, I believe that home-based businesses are identified, specifically, this is section LD 12-24, which is entitled home-based businesses. That section notes that home office use, meaning an office activity carried on or gained by a resident and dwelling unit, shall be a permitted accessory use in residential zoning districts,
Right.
provided that it goes through a bunch of different standards that we have to meet, and presumably if you don't meet those, it would be some sort of bulk variance relief. Separately from that, we have another section under our conditional uses, section LD 12-25.2C, which speaks to professional uses in residential districts. That's identified as conditional use. So if one of those conditions are not met, then an applicant would require conditional use variance relief. So I think based on my understanding of this reading, the home-based business is supposed to be more benign in nature, which is why if you don't meet something, it would be the bulk variance. If it was a home professional use, And that can be a little more substantial in nature, hence why we don't need one of those statutes to require conditional use variance, which is a higher standard. That's just my understanding.
I absolutely agree with you, now that you are reminding me of that, so basically both are permitted here. One, like Mr. Novak said, is accessory, which is the home-based business. And one is conditional principal use, which is the professional use. So both are permitted here, one as accessory, which I think makes sense with what he just read to us. It's an office that's accessory to a home. The other one is a professional use, that's more of a principal use. Both are permitted, and so I agree.
This application fits neither, which is why we're here.
Which is why it'd be one of these factors, yes. You opened up your testimony noting that this type of use is more suited for a residential area than a commercial area. Can you just expound on that a little more?
Yeah, again, I think the nature of the use, like I keep saying, if you have a dog that doesn't do well with new people, new dogs, new environments, a residential neighborhood, a residential home is much more conducive to that, as opposed to maybe a busier street or non-residential activities happening around you, more traffic, for example. Yeah.
So, the reason that the dogs don't necessarily, why they have an opportunity at my house that they might not have at a commercial kennel, is because of how I socialize them. I do very slow socializations, so that each dog is patiently let into my home. They meet dogs very slowly, they interact together. Any dog that boards at my house goes through daycare several times prior to boarding, so that they're very comfortable in my home. That I do that on purpose, so that by the time they get to my house, they are comfortable and it's not such a foreign and crazy and intense experience for them.
I don't think that was the question though. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So to circle back.
Yeah.
To the
Sorry.
question.
Because I don't think you answered it. The question is, I believe, that this dog business could be either in a commercial area, commercial zone, or it could be in a residential zone. And if it was in a commercial zone, you could still create this kind of environment in a commercial zone, correct? I think that was the question.
Right, and so I understand, exactly. We're in a residential zone, not a commercial zone.
Right.
I understand. So one part of it is what I just said and what my client just said, but the other part of it, which is the negative criteria, that all goes towards what I'd say is the positive criteria. Because basically what Mr. Novak is asking is the use variance itself. So all of that goes towards the positive criteria, but really, like I said, the heart of this application are the impacts to that residential zone. And for all the reasons that I mentioned, the nature of the use not being substantially dissimilar than a conditionally permitted use that could go here, such as an office with doctors, dentists, musicians, lawyers, and the like. Also the fact that it works. So the test is, can it fit here without substantial detriment to the public? And I believe that that test is met because of the small scale nature of the use.
Any other questions?
Mr. Zabel had a memo dated September 15, 2023. He goes into some broad goals of the 2017 re-examination report. Essentially that the 2017 re-examination report reaffirmed the goals of the 2000 master plan. Can you just discuss how this application is consistent with those goals?
Yeah, so I did try to weave some of this into my testimony, and just there's 4 bullets here, so I'll just go through them. Number 1, to preserve the residential and open character of the community. I think I directly addressed that by virtue of the fact that the openness is not going to be changed whatsoever. This does happen to be a pretty open property, as is visible from the street itself. And I think that that is going to be retained. To protect Bernardsville residents and their property from negative environmental, financial, and other impacts of development. I believe I have addressed that with the small scale nature of the business and I think the applicant herself has done a much better job than I have to address that in terms of her protocols and her strategies and techniques to keeping these dogs. To provide community facilities, services, and utilities to the extent they are practically feasible. I'm not sure if this pertains to this specific use, but I think it does benefit the community, and I think I did put testimony on the record to that. I think there are people with dogs that they really don't want to put in a commercial kennel for a variety of reasons, and this does provide that benefit. To promote the conservation of natural systems, environmental resources, rural appearance, and the natural amenities that characterize Bernardsville. I think I put that on the record as well by virtue of the fact that the massing and the scale is going to remain exactly as it is, and it's substantially compliant with zoning. And those are the.
If somebody was going to buy the house next door to this, would this have to be told to the person who's looking to buy a house that was around it or not?
I don't think so, no. Typically, I only see that with right to farm. So under right to farm, if you're purchasing property next to a farm, you're supposed to have some sort of e-notice for that. For a use like this, I don't think that exists.
Right there then. Carry that in the court. Any other questions from the board? Questions from public for the planner? Do you have a question for the planner? Any questions for the planner at all? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all we have for our direct witnesses this evening. I believe we commented on all of the comments and questions that were contained in the planner and engineering report. Just for the record, if I can just note the other reports that we did receive related to this application for purposes of completeness. So we did receive a letter from the Environmental Commission dated November 13th. Their comment related to the pet waste and making sure that we are compliant with the borough's requirements related to that. As you heard through testimony, there is a very particular way in which pet waste is handled on this property, which actually exceeds, meets and exceeds what is required by the town, and the town ordinance contemplates individuals that have dogs. So your dog takes a bathroom break, a duty break while you're walking it. You have a responsibility to pick it up and not leave it on somebody else's property or in public. And in this particular case, the dogs are doing their business in the fenced-in area on this property. It is contained. There's also a outside contract for how it's removed twice a week. So we believe we're not only meeting the intent of that ordinance as applied to a business like this, but the actual ordinance itself.
I think there's one more piece that needs to get added for that, and that is that the off this facility dog walking to the in-home visits. I think we need to have that on record as well as how that waste is handled.
We can answer that question now. So Ms. Connolly, when your dog walkers are going to walk dogs, your client's dogs that are either in this neighborhood or in town in general, they need to also be complying with the requirements of the borough to make sure that any pet waste is picked up.
Yes, absolutely. All my walkers pick up after themselves. Absolutely.
What is the typical process to do that? Are they bringing bags with them?
Yeah, I actually supply them. I give everyone, I buy big boxes of them and they go to all my employees. My employees get leashes.
And after they pick up the waste in those bags, what happens to those bags?
My client, whatever their procedure is the same as what we do. And usually it's like you guys put a garbage bag in the garage, But
They don't bring it back to your facility to dispose with your.
not if the dogs are at their house or we're walking the dog. It's the same exact procedure that you would have walking your dog. That's the same thing for any dog walker.
Oh.
They would do, put clean up after your animal, find the next receptacle.
Okay,
We're also in receipt of the fire department review letter dated November 13th, 2023, and the fire prevention had no comments, except that the occupancy will need to register with the Bureau and be subject to annual fire inspections once it's open and operating, and we will comply with that, if this were to be approved as a condition. We are also in receipt of the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee report dated November 14th, 2023. It confirms that this particular property is not located within a historic district, and it's not otherwise separately registered as an individual property. And we are in receipt of the July 31st, 2023 review letter from the zoning officer, which provides a zoning report confirming that the property itself is compliant with all of the bulk standards, with the exception of the one front yard, which we've identified, and also providing comments, asking for testimony relating to sanitary measures and noise maintenance. We believe that was addressed in direct testimony. She also asks about the Board of Health status. We did not receive a separate report to date from the Board of Health, although the applicant has been in touch with the Board of Health to review the requirements. The feedback that she received was that they would be working more closely and actually applying for whatever licenses or permits are required as a condition. So if this were to be approved, we do understand from the comments that we heard tonight that it's important for this board to have that information in advance of making any decision. So we're happy to reach out to the Board of Health to try to get those comments ahead of time so that we can work through any issues that may be presented based on the standards that we need to comply with. There is also a request for testimony regarding licenses of dogs being registered with the borough at all times. The applicant maintaining a comprehensive record for the Board of Health regarding each dog. Those records are maintained by the applicant, and we'd be more than happy to share those with the Board of Health so that they have a current record, similar to a rent roll type situation, whereas you have, changes in your, in that case, occupants, but in this case, dogs that are become clients. It's constantly updated to make sure that it's current. So we would comply with that comment. She also notes that all fencing is should be within the property limits to ensure liability. Fencing appears to be on the neighboring property. As we discussed, there's two potential ways to deal with that: build another fence entirely on the property to connect to what's there, or seek an easement, which will be recorded from the neighbor next door. So even in the event the neighbor says no, which Mrs. Connolly is hoping wouldn't be the case if she has had some communication with that neighbor, we could always just construct a new fence on our side, the applicant's side of the property, in order to accommodate that comment. There's number 4, should this variance be granted, it will run with the land and not the person as per the municipal land use law. So a new owner of the property could run the same business if this is approved. She states this would set precedent for future business to be in a residential area. Legally, it's not precedent setting. So any application that this board approves does in fact run with the land. So a future owner could operate the same way as the approval, but it doesn't mean that the next person that comes in can say, well, you did it on this property, so you have to do it for me. Each application is evaluated individually, which I'm sure this board is familiar with. And then her last comment is her professional opinion as a zoning officer, that though this is a great business and to assist in bridging the gap between the COVID crisis and now regarding owners of dogs, it's not a true representation of the physical dynamics of the neighborhood and how it should be utilized. The borough has a fair amount of commercial space that would better suit this type of use. And a possible alternative is to provide the services at the location in which owners are in need. And you did hear quite a bit of testimony this evening from both the owner and applicant and our planner as to why this particular site is actually suited for this sort of boutique use that is being proposed. And why, though it could be provided in a commercial space, it does make sense here too. So not that those have to be mutually exclusive, it could work in both places, but I think the testimony that you've heard this evening describes particularly why it works well for this site.
Who provided that comment?
This is from the zoning officer's letter.
It's her bullet point number 5.
Okay, thank you.
And as you also heard, a component of the business is to do at-home services and dog walking currently, which is why the actual number of dogs on site is so limited to 8 total, 2 of which are the owners, but 6 to 8 dogs on a given day. And that is all of the review letters that we have received to date.
Can you address the, her last sentence in that, permitted to have a home office not to exceed 25% of the first floor to perform administrative aspects of the business? That's why, again, that floor plan and the actual percentage of the home you use would be a good tool. I mean, there's 8 dogs. How does it spread out? Where do the little boxes all go? Where does all the food go? Where do all the medicines go? As opposed to how much of the percentage of the home they use for themselves to live. So that's why that floor plan is pretty important to see. Because it's stated right here.
Yes, so to that point, yes, we agree that the floor plan is important so that it's actually labeled and identified for where all of these operations are happening. But I think also to that point, we did have the discussion about how there's both a home-based business as an accessory use, which as your planner also confirmed is intended to be a more benign use that truly is accessory to the property. So someone who's operating their business out of their home. And then there's also a separate category of a conditional use. Again, we don't fit into either of them. So they both could have been identified, I think, in this comment. And in an effort to describe how this particular use is close to those uses, because we don't fit in either box. To your point, Board Member Malillo, it would be helpful to have that actual number so that you could compare it to something. But as far as what is currently there today, there are no changes. So we're not expanding in any way to accommodate
that
this
part,
particular use.
you were
So
clear on that. It's just to see how the business functions within
the space that's there.
David, how does the process work with the Board of Health? Do they have to come to a meeting? You know, in other words, how does it work?
Ordinarily, we get letter reports from them. We did not get a letter report as far as I know. And so we need to reach out to them and make sure we actually get one on this application.
Right.
And if it's approved, then it's subject to the requirements of the Board of Health.
Right.
In addition to everything else.
Is there a hearing or, I mean, how does it work? They just review the application?
We're not finishing this up tonight.
Right.
That I can tell. So I actually have a couple of questions that came up in my mind. First of all, is there any signage that's proposed for this business?
No.
Okay. And the second thing is there any requirement for all of the dogs that you service in this business to be licensed by the town?
Yes, yeah, I take all their medical history, I take their microchip numbers. Basically, if they're safe to go to a vet, you know, they have to have
There's a
all their.
requirement in town for every dog to have a license.
Yeah, they're registered, all the dogs that come to me are registered.
Okay,
That's
so they're all
their-
registered by the dog,
Yeah.
by the town.
Mhm.
Okay,
Follow up on that, so if you have a dog, if the dog parent lives in Basking Ridge, they register their dog with Basking Ridge, they don't register their.
correct.
So are you asking whether they would then have to register with Bernardsville because? the
No,
dog
they
is-
don't live in Bernardsville.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to make sure that all the dogs are registered somewhere.
Yeah.
Appropriate,
they're
wherever, yeah,
registered.
appropriately.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand.
The kennel requirements, because there's kennels on this. Does that, in other words, how do we find those kennels? Does the Board of Health look at the kennel requirements?
I think your apples and oranges on it, but I'm waiting to hear from the Board of Health.
For that, so.
Yeah. I want to hear what they have to say.
Mhm.
Because she doesn't, what we did here so far is that there isn't a category for this. We're gonna review it as if it's a kennel, but. I don't know. Okay. All right.
That's the case.
Good. But I think the homework assignment is, the Board of Health and, a floor plan.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
And a decision on the fence.
Yeah, and a decision on the fence, yes.
And a site plan, right?
Well, that's the.
Well,
That's it.
floor plan.
Yeah, the floor plan. We have a survey.
Mhm.
Which shows the fences in one.
No site work isn't done here.
Did I hear somebody, I think somebody said that there was a second fence and that there might be another witness who can speak to that?
So on the survey, it appears as if there's a double fence to the rear of the property, not on that west side that
Okay.
shares a lot line with lot 14, but that's certainly something that we can confirm, and come back.
On the north end,
Correct.
So is that okay?
Yes, and I have copious notes on our assignment. So we'll certainly come back to that information, but I'm wondering, Mr. Chair and Mr. Rigo, if we might be able to open just to public comment in case there's anything that we need to be prepared to respond to, and since there are members of the public here this evening.
If you're willing to do that, we can do that.
Thank you.
So we can have public comment this evening.
As I was saying,
Rules on public comment. The rules on public comment are, you have to state your name, spell your name, give your address, and then you can speak. And this is the only mic in the room, right?
Well, it's these two, yes. So what, yeah, what,
So
They
somebody's gonna have to come up and be near one of us.
well, there's an X on the floor here that is supposed to be a good spot.
Okay,
That's
cool.
what I'm told.
Stand on the X. I don't know, this is our first full
Yes.
hearing,
So I'll-
not after told you, so.
Well, it's actually a little bit behind where Ms. Magziak was sitting, or if you'd like, you can stay right there.
So I'm at 22 Liberty Road, directly across the street.
First of all, your
Oh,
name,
yes, I'm sorry, you're right, you gave me rules, sorry, Dee.
I'm sorry, what was your name, please?
Lillian Doremus,
Lillian Dreams.
22 Liberty Road.
Please
Proud,
spell your last name.
Doremus. My husband and I live right across the street, and we are proud to be the neighbors of Haley and Mike. They are amazing dog care people. Whoever here, I know Mr. Slocum, I run into him almost every morning with his 3 dogs. I highly recommend using this. So where I'm going with this, we don't hear anything, we don't hear barking. So all these what if scenarios with the barking and all that, she really does vet the dogs. We don't hear anything. The only thing we hear is joy when people sometimes come pick up the dog. And when you see the dogs not want to leave the house, it's the funniest thing. They have a golden retriever that refuses to leave. I have 2 golden retrievers who just adore her. There's something about Haley, she's like a Dr. Dolittle. She has this gift, and all of us here are here to support them. We kind of look to the right, left, and around them. They're just terrific dog people. We have no issue with them having a business in our neighborhood. I think I speak for many of us here, so I don't think there's anybody here that would disagree.
Thank you.
Thank you very
thank you
much.
for your comment. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Hi, first like this. Melanie Moran, Moran. I'm at 32 Liberty, right across from that white van. My husband and I and kids fully support Haley and Mike. They're an asset to our neighborhood, and I hope I can say friendly to you one day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the most important testimony.
Is this your daughter?
My name is Will. I live at 42 Garibaldi Street, right across from the left side of the house. Whenever I'm there, I barely hear anything, and whenever I look over, I see that all the dogs are happy, and Haley takes really great care of them. Whenever I go over, all the dogs are very nicely behaved, and they don't want to bark.
Did you get Will's last name?
It's Solano, Solano.
And her first name?
His name is William.
William, yeah, very good.
He just has fabulous hair.
I guess.
My name is Melissa Provost. I'm Will's mom. I also live at 42 Garibaldi Street, which is across the street from the drop-off area. My front yard faces their side yard on the corner. I work from home every day and always keep my windows and doors open. I don't hear anything that would disrupt my workday. I do hear occasionally how happy Haley is when the dogs come over. And it is the nicest part of my day. And like I said, I am home all day, every day, and sitting in the same spot in my house where I can clearly hear and see drop off. They are wonderful. They're not just great dog people, Will, they're just great people, Mike and Haley. They're wonderful neighbors. They are very caring and loving towards not just the dogs in their care, but also the people who live around them. And we're thankful for them. So please vote yes for them.
Hello, I'm Andrew Church and I live right across the street from Haley and Mike. Well, kind of, right on 24 Liberty Road.
I'm sorry, I kind of just ended.
Andrea Church.
Thank you very much.
So I'm here to speak on behalf of our neighbors. We fully support Haley. I'm home probably 75% of the time. My husband's home 100% of the time. He works right in front of their house and he's not here because we have kids and someone's got to do that. But he never hears any barking. Actually, if you weren't part of the community, you don't even know that there's like a boarding of dogs across the street. All we see sometimes is the dogs coming in and coming out. The girls, they're not here because they're in bed, but they love like seeing the puppies come in. They count them as they come in. We support it, and again, it's not a nuisance. We don't hear noise. The other way, like, we know that she's there for us to feel ready. We have a crazy dog that's louder, probably than all of her dogs. So
We're here for it.
I don't know if he'd be accepted, but yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Gary Rizzo, 35 Garibaldi Street, last name is Rizzo. I'm at 35 Garibaldi Street, right there on, I guess it would be the north side, to the fence there. And just echoing what our neighbors have all shared, I think the only thing that maybe they haven't mentioned is that Mike and Haley are so approachable. If anything were to arise, I think I speak for all of us, we feel really comfortable working with them to figure out whatever it would be. I can't imagine what that'd be at this point, but I have a little boy and we eat dinner, 20 feet away, and I hear other dogs. I don't ever hear really anything from them, so it's no issues here. I hope you guys consider all this as you make your decision. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Vicky Malko, Malko. I just moved in 2 months ago. I'm living at 7 Hill Street. I'm gonna preface this by telling you I'm one of those crazy dog moms that contributed to the 100% like rise in dog hair loss. My dog is a pit bull. So when people see pits, often they get intimidated because they just have this thing about them. My girl Maisie was abandoned by her mom at 4 weeks old. So I've had her since she was really little. Because she was abandoned, she didn't learn a lot of the behaviors that she should have learned from her mother. So after I birthed her, I spent her entire childhood training her and, teaching her how to be socialized. And she came really, really far away. When I moved here 2 months ago, the new environment, the new status, she regressed a lot. She was nervous, she was scared, her tail was tucked, she wouldn't walk. All the trainers that I've ever used, many of them would say, dogs are meant to be social, throw them in with the pack and they'll figure it out, right? Haley's approach of slow socialization, proper integration was the key to success for us. And I said to Haley, here's a pit bull, she's an absolute lover, but she's nervous. I want to integrate her, I want to make her part of the society, part of the community that's been so welcoming. She agreed, let's do lateral walks. Once she'll message me, a couple times a week, we talk, the dogs are in, they're taking a nap, Mike is home, let's do a walk. And we've done these slow walks where Maisie's meeting new dogs. She did a temperament test first, and now Maisie is thriving. She gets excited to go for walks. She gets excited to see other dogs when they're walking down the block. And that was the key to success for us. I don't think anybody here can question Haley's capabilities or passion to take care of a dog. But I will say the fact that she's doing it in a residential place rather than a commercial has also been really beneficial. For a dog like mine that is nervous, when I took her to doggy daycare, which I always have for socialization, she learned that was a fun place, a place to be okay, to let your guard down and enjoy. But when I would bring her home, we would come into my community and she would be territorial because she didn't have that socialization there. So the fact that this is in a residential is really beneficial for the dogs and how they learn to integrate with the community. Yeah. So I'm grateful. I've been here 2 months and I'm blessed that you're the first in that. Sorry, no offense, but thank you.
Thank you.
And we want to get home early, my name's Mike Annella, Innella, homeowner at 21 Liberty. I moved in there myself 2.5 years ago. I love her, though. Never thought I'd be here. We have a great neighborhood, great neighbors, everything like that. No complaints ever. We're so grateful. Haley loves what she does, and I'm chopped liver to the dogs, so she loves the dogs more than me. So I am so happy for her, and it gives her so much joy. It gives her so much passion, and this is her niche. She loves doing this. I can't see her not. I mean, hopefully when I die, I come back a dog and I go. It's a good place. If you want to come check it out, you can.
Yeah, you're always
So
welcome.
you are the owner, you're the husband and the owner of the property? Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Not part of public comment, I'm sorry. You have a vested interest in it.
But we understand.
We understand your enthusiasm, okay? There's a legal process here that we have to follow. No offense.
If I didn't do it, I don't know what I. You only live once.
Are there any other comments that people want to make?
I can. Sorry, I'm Jackie Wells. I live in Bedminster. I am daily impressed by the small number of dogs Haley takes. The house is always immaculate and I'm a strong judge. The dogs are obedient. When she asks them to be quiet, they're quiet. There's a variety of mostly smaller, medium-sized dogs. It's just not as overwhelming as I thought it was gonna be, and I do go and visit and sit with the dogs sometimes if they're ready to go to an appointment, so I have some experience here, and I will just say that it is really not a chaotic, crazy environment. It's just calm, and the number of dogs really isn't overwhelming. So that's all. Thank you. Thanks, Mom.
Okay. So we're not gonna close public comment because we're not done with the hearing, but we heard this. We need to figure out when you wanna come back. The challenge is, we only have one meeting on the calendar, which is January 15th. What did I write it down?
It is.
The 16th. January 16th is our only meeting that we can calendar at this point. Because we haven't published the dates for next year yet. But January 16th is published. So will you be ready by then?
No, yeah, if whatever.
Okay. No. You're the only, this is the last meeting of the year.
Okay.
So the only meeting that we have calendared is our reorganizational meeting on the 16th.
Okay.
So we can. Yeah, so we will, you're gonna have to sit through reorganization, but, because that happens first. Has to. But then we can continue this application to January 16th, 7:30, and because we are noticed for in-person meetings for this application, it'll have to be here.
Okay.
All right?
No further notice required. And you have your homework assigned, right?
Yeah, yes.
And that's a Tuesday.
And that is a Tuesday, because Martin Luther King is on a Monday.
Did you know?
Yeah, it's got it. Yeah, it should.
Sorry.
Pardon me?
Just apologize for standing and saying the guy.
No, go ahead, it's okay.
You don't have to say.
Nobody has to stay. Yeah, I know this is just a lot of fun, but you know, we have to go into our business.
Have you figured your right hand?
Thank you.
My dad's a lawyer, I should have that one too.
Okay. So Denise. I know you said we had no new business, but we do have a few things. We need to decide on a schedule for next year. Before next month. So,
And that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about.
yeah, we should have started that a month ago. So we could have circulated it.
Excuse me. The call, I'm assuming, is there any time limit issues you waive them?
Yes,
Okay.
and I'll send a confirming letter
Thank
to Ms. Lardo, so you have it.
We didn't do it till tonight.
Yeah, I know, I was.
Yeah. So, meeting schedule. We only meet the second. We don't meet the first Monday in July.
Wait a minute. No first Monday in July.
Right, we skip July 4th.
Okay.
And we no second meeting in December. And other than that, however the calendar rolls out, so we obviously we avoid Martin Luther King Day. We let the council reorganize first, so we don't try and meet the first Monday in January. We don't know exactly when the council is meeting for their reorganizational meeting.
Well, I don't think you can before they reorganize anyway.
Right, because we don't know who the board's gonna be. So that's why we skip that first meeting in January. We meet the third Monday in January, which is typically on a Tuesday because that's Martin Luther King Day.
And then, so in January, we only have one meeting.
In January, we only have one meeting. September, the first meeting is always the Tuesday, but the first Monday is Labor Day. So that one's always gonna be a Tuesday. President's Day gets in the way on occasion in February. With the third Monday.
So do we do that on a Tuesday? or-
That one is also on a Tuesday. I'm trying to think of the other Monday holidays that get in the way.
Well, I think the overarching is. Bank observed Monday holidays, we meet the Tuesday afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, you can look
Or-
at last,
or
you can
whenever
look at this year's calendar for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, well, that's what I was gonna do, so what I can do is I can put together a calendar and I can circulate it.
Yeah, please.
You know,
And if anybody has any comments, get them back to Denise. But please, everybody, look at the calendar. So that we can vote on it in January. Because otherwise, we're gonna have a mess. We need to publish the calendar in January for the rest of the year.
Yes, and then that also goes with, well, it's always good practice anyway to publish, as we've done here, the reorg meeting.
For the
For the following year.
Yes.
Looks like this.
Yep, yeah, I have that, thank you, yes, thank
Urge
you,
the
yeah.
board members that weren't here tonight, was trying to listen to this tape. Otherwise, we're gonna have 5 eligible members.
Yeah.
Right, we do, yeah, we, please,
The board members they should have a fun time.
yeah. But we need a couple of people to listen to the tape. So that we have, it would be nice to have 7. Because
Yeah.
otherwise it's getting real thin on
Variance,
just
yeah,
5.
yeah.
The other thing is we need a volunteer for the annual report.
I volunteer,
I know what you're gonna volunteer, Mark. Are you gonna volunteer to do it?
I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been here for what, 10 years, I haven't done it.
Wow.
Been here 4 twice.
Yes, well.
Put Thomas in it.
I've done it.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Okay, thank
Just,
you.
Big shoes to fill.
well, if somebody can send to me.
He needs all the notes, all of the stuff that Frank would ordinarily have sent.
I just need to, like, a couple of examples, and I'm gonna copy it and plug in new data and we'll be fine.
Well, you need all the statistics. So all of the meeting attendance statistics get published in that report. A summary of all of the cases that were heard in 2023, the status of them. Obviously, this one, we heard it, but we didn't decide it, so it's. But we need all those statistics. So if you could get that to Ed.
We got it thin. right?
Yeah, it is thin this year.
That's why I volunteered. It's like 4.
Because otherwise, it's usually the new guy that gets it.
Were you ever in the army?
Well, we do have a handful of applications that are in,
Yes.
but they haven't been heard yet.
Right.
So we'll include those.
Yep, and that'll be
actually
March
don't-
next year.
I actually don't think,
No, it's just for 23.
yeah,
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
Upton Pine, we don't include because they haven't applied, we just know about it. The ones Bernards Ave. Yeah, it's got an application number from this year, but
There's nothing to say.
one of the things is the determination of jurisdiction is still open. So, the applicant's in the process of making plan revisions and they're gonna resubmit. So we don't know. If jurisdiction on it.
Yeah, that, and nothing's happened with that.
Yeah, Hager, is incomplete. So that gets on the list, but it's noted as
Right.
incomplete.
Tusar.
Tusar is, applicant's process of making plan revisions and will resubmit. So I think we should note that. And,
Well, hold on now, I'm reconsidering.
but that one is not,
Okay.
All you have to do is say applicants making plan revisions and.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
it's not complete.
And also ChatGPT.
Yeah, right.
And you also have Assad still out there.
Yeah, Assad is still out there.
Well, Assad is still out there, but he's redoing the entire application.
Yeah, he's got DEP issues.
Yeah.
But also,
Big time.
yeah,
All
he
new,
wants to do something
professionals
like
too.
totally different.
Okay, but so that one is open. But
No, it actually isn't. He's withdrawing that application.
Well, if we can get a letter that says he withdrew it,
Right.
then it's withdrawn, but if he
Right.
didn't, it's still open. I don't know why he would withdraw it, because then he'd have to pay the app fee all over again. That was stupid, but that's for him.
Well, but it's gonna be a different application.
But that doesn't matter.
Because he,
That doesn't matter. We can, as long as the application is still open and we haven't exceeded any time requirements. I think it was supposed to be done by today, or for this meeting, I think,
Yeah.
at some point. And so we probably need to get a letter from him to extend the time on it to make a decision. But if we do that, he can come in with a new plan, it's called a revised plan. And it saves him from making the app fee all over again. Otherwise, he's gotta pay the app fee. I don't think he knows that. He's not thinking that far.
Yeah,
That's all.
and if you can't get an idea as to what he wants to do, you almost have to dismiss the application as that does.
well, wait,
If he says, I won't have it for a year, then we don't wanna
I'm
have.
confused. Was he doing like additions to the home?
No, he's trying to put a pool in.
Behind the barn.
And behind the barn, and it's next to a stream that's a class 1 stream.
Okay, but, okay, so
So that's
that's
why
right.
he has DEP issues.
Right, that's right. Now, I was confusing it with another application. So what he wants to do now is he wants to tear the house down.
Another one, but that's his new plan?
He wants to tear the house down because there's radon. And he wants, instead of trying to remediate existing and have to go through this whole process, he wants to tear the entire house down and start.
Yeah, so the reapplication fee.
Yeah.
That's
A lot more, that's
Okay,
not.
so
accounting error.
All right, then-
Building costs.
Yeah, it is. So if he wants to withdraw the application, then that's fine. Then we need a letter from him to withdraw it.
And honestly, I spoke to him, I can't tell you because today was my first day back, he may have sent that in, because we had a conversation that he was going to
Okay.
send it in, and I
Okay.
don't know if he did or did not.
Okay.
Make sure all the escrows are up to date. If he wants to withdraw, make sure he's current with.
Who's all the escrows?
And it sounds like he needs a whole new application.
Yeah, yes,
This is not a.
I, that's what I told him, so.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
His radar on his dreams.
Yeah. The other new business item I want to bring up to the board here is, the issue with Ferraro Engineering merging in with our friends at, Boswell. So Kevin and Paul obviously had a conversation, and Bob's rate increased by 60%. Increased by 60 or 70%. On top of that, we got a letter from Paul Ferraro that basically said, well, you're not paying for Bob's time anyway. You know, all of it goes back to the
Escrow.
applicants, so what do you care?
Put that in a letter?
Yeah. So I was a little upset with that letter, just to say the least. Because, oh, by the way, everybody that's sitting out there is a citizen.
You're not the one getting screwed, that somebody else is.
Yeah, all of the townsfolk are the ones that are gonna get screwed. So, I was, a little twisted about that one. And, in addition, I had a conversation with Nancy about this. She is hiring an in-house engineer. And they're not replacing Doug, he left. He was the one that was in charge of capital projects. He wasn't working for John McDowell anymore. He got a bump up and was doing capital projects. And now, so he left, he resigned. Nancy's not replacing that role. And she's hiring a professional engineer. And I said, interesting. Because I think it's really strong to have the same person engineering across all of the groups in town. The borough, the planning board, and the board of adjustment. Having the same engineer across all three is a good thing. So she told me that. I had a conversation with Bob Graham, email back and forth, told him my thoughts. Because his comment was, there's a lot of intrinsic knowledge that Bob has that can bring to the front, and it is good for the boards. Yeah, I got that. And oh, by the way, the bulk of it is, zoning stuff, and the new engineer is gonna learn that in a heartbeat. So I suggested to Bob, and he liked the idea, that we can start with Bob Brightly, but think about transitioning to the borough engineer, which does two things. One, we then have the same engineer across all the departments. And the second thing is that then that engineer, when he bills his time to project work, the town charges an escrow to the applicants. They may actually save money because he might be cheaper at town rate.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, in addition, it covers his salary. So there's a benefit to the town to leverage in-house talent for the engineering.
Are the Ferraro rates, new rates negotiable, or is this dropped in?
And they just dropped them on us. And
so
it does, yeah, they don't pursue I know that Bob.
Transitional thing,
Yeah, well, Bob Graham was gonna try and negotiate with them. They pay Bob Brightly more than we ever have, because as a board, we don't pay Bob because it goes back to the applicants. But the planning board does a lot of engineering work, not just application related.
Yeah.
And so they pay his bill a lot, and the town of Montclair, I think, negotiated with Boswell and said, okay, we'll let you bill us 1 hour for a meeting. And they bought off on that. So Bob was,
2024?
well, that was for 23, I think, in Montclair.
Okay.
So it was last year's contract. That's what Bob was shared with me.
They should phase it, to go from 0 to 60%.
It's
In
just
1 year.
So,
Yeah.
at the last meeting, we talked about like an RFP or whatnot.
Yeah.
Bailing on that.
Yeah, I'm bailing on that only because Nancy's already hired a borough engineer. He starts, I want to say in January. I don't think he
January
starts-
2nd.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So I'm inclined to transition to the borough engineer over time. And, you know, we can give the contract to Bob at the beginning of the year. And the reason we're discussing this now is because, oh, by the way, all this stuff happens at the reorganization meeting. And just, you know, at some point during the year, we just stop using Bob.
So we can assign him as the board
Interim.
engineer. And then.
Sometime later,
And then we
reassign the job.
We just cease using the services.
Right.
Transition the work to.
To the in-house engineer, yeah.
And so do we have to, as part of our resolution, also list the in-house engineer as an available
I'll ask him.
engineering?
You're turning the wrong way.
Because we write those contracts theoretically for the year.
Yes,
But they're
yes.
in the resolution, that's.
If we're gonna do something with Ferrero,
It's not Boswell.
Boswell, short term. I wouldn't wanna have, our standard garden variety for 2024 and then stop giving them work, because they're gonna say, wait a minute, we have a deal here. We need to, I think we need to put something in there
Monday.
that we're gonna point you, however. Putting fancy language, the work could be divvied up, between.
Well, that's why I asked.
So can you give language to Denise for the award that we're gonna publish?
We'll have to,
Maybe it's like we reserve the right to reconsider
or we reserve the right to assign work as our best judgment, that kind of stuff, because I wouldn't want to hire Bob. I mean, we've all known Bob,
Yeah, I've known
And then-
I've known him for 20 years, 15 years.
And then one day we say, Bob, you're not getting anything anymore, we're gonna phase it, or maybe save them for the really heavy. A lot of towns have an in-house, but the in-house people are normally. If you're a top-notch engineer, a top-notch planner, you're probably not gonna go in-house, because it's usually less pay. It's less stressful, I think, because you got the normal hours. The heavyweights go public or go private because there's more money or whatever.
But you're gonna need.
Novak's making so much money, you can't even count it.
I do this all for charity.
So you're gonna need Bob and Boswell because our new hire isn't certified in stormwater management.
Well, see, that's the thing, you need a heavyweight for the
He
odd.
looks at an
stormwater,
application, like say
or
Assad, we can't.
Yeah, you need the heavyweight, and I find that your locals, your in-house people are,
I didn't know that.
good for,
It's not certified.
the garden variety, the garden variety stuff. I know in Fairfield, if Steve Berry's the in-house engineer, and you guys are planners, but if there's something super heavy, then they usually go out to an outside engineer. So it's good to have, and I don't know how much heavy stuff.
So do we write the award, that we point both the in-house engineer and Boswell as engineers for the board?
Yeah.
We appoint both,
Yes, yeah, well.
and then we can direct it as needed.
The work can be directed as needed. I do know on the New Jersey Planners Association website, NJPO website, Bernardsville has gone out for RFPs for the borough engineer and for a labor attorney, which doesn't affect us, but it does say borough engineer, RFPs by such and such a date. But which is why I was wondering, because I knew Ferrero was transitioning to Boswell, and the rates are gonna go up. I mean, that's just.
It went up astronomically. I just was really incensed with Paul Ferrero's comment.
Well, but if we can get a good local, in-house engineer, that's good quality, and them and Boswell as a also, and then we divvy up the work as we see fit. If it's heavy stuff involving traffic, involving all kinds of stuff, then we can go to Boswell. And if it's garden variety, something like this tonight, then that's,
We sort of have
This
to
isn't a
do
heavy
that
lift.
when the applications come in as part of,
Completeness review.
the completeness
Yeah.
review. As to whether we can handle it in-house or externally.
Yeah.
But
And
if there's any new work, like, he's gonna need software, he's gonna need like, he's gonna need equipment.
I know.
He's gonna do, for instance, the other day, my neighbor asked me to explain to him the Campbell Road work that's gonna be happening, the drainage and whatever. He heard it, but he didn't understand it. So I came down and looked at the plans, understood it. But now I'm looking through like 6, 7, 8 pages of
Yeah.
detailed drainage and whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what software, what equipment, what printing ability, where do we have that? Where do we
Yeah.
key up? What
I know.
investment do we need to key up to bring an in-house engineer?
You know what, that's Nancy's role,
Sure.
between the new engineer and Nancy, they can figure it out.
Mhm.
We can't, this board can't solve that one,
No.
it's a good question.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
It's not as simple as just hire and
No.
he starts working.
And this
by
does,
the way, Jake, none of this is for publication, okay? Thank you.
no,
That's the Bernardsville News, guys.
yeah, I figured I was gonna, he's taking notes.
That's Jake over there.
No, I know, like I know Passaic, they do a lot of redevelopment work, and we have a good in-house planner. But when you're doing a whole 10-block area, they gotta go to a major firm.
Yeah,
And it costs more, and the reports are like that rather than 10 pages, but you got to pay for it, so.
Yep.
I
so
think
that's
that's a good way
for
to do
Nancy
it.
to solve and the planning board to solve, and everybody's gotta think about this.
And Denise too.
Denise, I have a question on the videos. We have to watch the video. and
Oh, yeah, forgot about that.
What do we have to do?
Oh, the stormwater.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have,
So Anthony was supposed to send an email with working links.
Yeah.
and
we don't, I don't have,
times.
If you look at the reply that I sent to
I saw it.
you,
Mhm.
I think I sent it to everybody when I did that.
can you
And I
resend it?
typically don't do that.
Can you resend it to us? Cause I don't have it. I mean, I'm waiting to read
I
it.
would prefer if Denise did it only because it's an Oprah thing.
Okay,
I hate doing that. I hate sending messages to the entire board because it gets, it opens the Oprah can of worms.
Denise, would you send it then to us?
So that was an email that you sent.
I sent it back to Mark. He complained that the link wasn't working.
Right,
He's
and
right.
what did you say about it?
I sent the link to the DEP website that then had the 5 videos listed.
Okay.
You
And
need to queue us up so that we can just click on, and then my response back to you was, go back in the notes in April that it was posted that I did my, remember, maybe I
Yes,
forgot.
yes.
But I did mine, and then I actually did another one, so I'm on number 2 of 5 to do, but none of it, because you had checked. it, I
doesn't
didn't
count.
do
You
it.
did 2 this year, you're out of prison this year. You still have to do 1 next year.
Yeah, mhm.
Yeah, how many do we have to do?
I
So
didn't
the
check
point is
it.
you have to do 1 a
That
year.
was what they gave me.
That's what they gave you, right?
1 video a year. I picked
Yeah,
the
it
short.
probably was.
Man.
But then I-
See, Mark, we're getting the short one. He did that.
Oh, long time.
I'm good.
Back at the beginning of the year.
Maybe the 45-minute one, I did it.
Got it.
And-
Well, so
and it was
Denise will
noted.
send out the memo, send out a memo with the link that works.
Okay.
You go into that link. And there's like 5 videos that are listed in there for stormwater. Pick one, I picked the shortest. All you have to do is sit there and watch the stupid thing. The shortest is about 4.5 minutes.
Interesting, not bad.
The longest is about 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I think to watch all of them is only about 45 minutes.
Yeah, you don't have to watch all of them, you have to watch 1.
Now, you could watch all of them, and it's good.
It's good for fun, but you gotta do it again next
Oh,
year.
you guys do it again every year?
You have to do it every year.
Oh,
So just watch 1 and send Denise a note, and that way the borough doesn't get fined.
will you send it to us then?
Yes,
So
yeah.
we're just gonna get the 1 short one.
Okay.
But
Yeah, so.
everybody watch the
so
short.
The email that I sent came from,
Anthony,
Yes.
no, it came from John McDowell.
okay,
Originally, it came from him,
Yeah.
and I didn't check the link, I mean,
yeah.
I just kind
It
of.
doesn't work.
Yeah, and it doesn't work, that's right. by the way, that's the same thing, link that, Frank sent out way back at the beginning of the year. It didn't work. And I went and dug down and found the one that did. You have
Because
to
it
go,
probably came from John, I'm gonna have to let him know what the.
yeah, so what I did was I went to the DEP website and I went, down into the stormwater stuff and found the page that this thing should have had.
Okay.
That's what I did.
You sent her the title of the one you watched then? Or the number?
That's Frank there.
I don't remember what I sent you, but I did, I.
Yeah, well, it sounds as though from what David is saying is that he sent a link to all 5 videos.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you just have to watch one.
Right, and then send Denise a note saying, I watched one.
And tell me which one.
Okay.
And when you watched it, because apparently you don't get any type of confirmation.
No, not at all.
Right?
No, it's just a video, boom, done.
Okay.
You don't get any confirmation or anything?
No,
How
not
do
at
you
all.
know you did it?
They don't. See, honestly.
And what you also don't know is if I remembered it.
Does anyone know how Frank's doing?
I have not.
I have not spoken to Frank since probably a couple of weeks after
Okay.
he left.
Yeah.
Now, earlier in the year, when we were on Zoom, I suggested that you share your screen and we all watch the shortest one together.
That was a
We
good
didn't do that.
idea. That was
We
a
should
good
have done that,
idea,
but-
Tom and had.
God, I don't remember seeing that note.
That's a
Yeah.
good.
Obviously, I ignored that part.
Next Thursday, we meet at the station at 6. Mark brings his, David buys. Right, and we can just knock it out.
Yeah, what am I
Do the
gonna
long
buy?
one. What?
What am I gonna buy?
A beverage of anybody's choice.
Yeah, my choice.
What? No, that doesn't work.
Water is all around, yeah, tap water.
That doesn't work that way.
Has anyone seen the movie Zero Dark 30? Bin Laden?
Yes.
Doesn't that remind a little bit the compound of?
Oh, yeah.
Forget the streets.
How is she still presenting when she left?
How is this up here?
Nicole put it up, as A1. It was an exhibit.
But didn't she
Yeah,
raise
but
it?
it's still-
Who's
Yeah,
presenting?
how's it?
I don't know.
It's
I
stuck.
don't know why it's still there. Because she's still logged into the meeting, she didn't log out.
Okay.
But so
That's
she's
my
away
computer.
somewhere and it's here. That's incredible.
Yeah, good point. I love this
Her,
technology.
her computer is probably still on. Yeah,
Thank God we're not in the ICBM solos.
Wow.
Silos.
Okay.
Denise, can I ask a request? So when you print out the application and you put it in the box, can you also include all like the professional reports, like the engineering?
Well,
report?
I was just gonna ask that. That was the next question. That was the next one. When you send out the agenda for the meeting, please also include all of the professional attachments.
yes, and I normally would, except for the circumstances.
I understand you had extenuating circumstances. for
Yeah, I
this.
didn't get any of the.
But it didn't get sent out for the meeting.
But does everyone know where to find them?
Usually we get a link.
Yes,
We get a link,
But-
plug it in.
and the
Right.
but is I would prefer to have them all attached because
Yeah.
there's bill lists, there's all kinds of stuff. And I print all that stuff out and then I review it.
Okay.
All the
So, I
reports.
mean, that's why I like, I like to have the large size drawings.
Yeah.
Which is, so I don't know. the
Well,
large-
those are in the box.
Oh, I know, I picked it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did. I'm just saying, I'm the paper guy around here, cause I'm bald. So,
Wait, what does that have to do with?
I'm an old fart.
A poopy man.
My wife says, OG.
I don't wanna know.
And so I like paper. That's why I have my fountain pen. I like
So
paper.
you're gonna have attachments.
Yeah, so just attach all that stuff to the email, please. So I don't have to go
It's
hunt
all
for
in
it.
one spot.
I do know where it is. I just don't have to look for it. I'm lazy.
Can you put them in the box as well? Cause I pick up the paper as well.
Yeah, and I go to police and pick up the pot. I'm a paper person too.
Yeah, but the drawings, I'm okay with the drawings in the box
Mhm.
and the link and just send out all the attachments as attachments, whether they're Word or PDF or whatever. You print them at home at your leisure. I'm okay
So-
with that,
So
because
here's
so
the
the borough
thing.
doesn't have to pay for the paper, guys.
Here's the thing, that would be better, if we could do it that way, because it's the applicant's responsibility to provide those copies. I don't stand at the copier, and to make all those copies of all the reports and then intertwine them into the packet from the
Thank you.
applicant, it's extremely time consuming. And also, it's more taxpayer dollars using copier.
Right,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying, it's just, we can print it, we can afford the paper individually, and the toner, or ink, whatever you use.
So, but when we pick, in the boxes will be what?
In the boxes will be the large drawings.
The application.
Well, and the application, that's all provided by the applicant.
Yeah,
But the professional reports, and the interesting thing about this application is, this went to the Board of Health, but they didn't send anything.
yeah, so ping them and tell them
Yeah,
that they need
I
to
will.
That's
respond.
very, to me, this
Because
application.
I read it again, and I was even looking through my email, and I'm like, I don't see anything, but I see where I sent it to them.
Yeah, so just ping them again and tell them we need something.
Okay.
Especially because they don't have, I don't think they have much time, that's a concern.
Well, they've got a month.
Yeah,
I'm not
It's
saying.
Christmas and everything.
Yeah.
Too bad, they got a month.
There were a couple that they got back to me on and said, because there was no, septic, they didn't need to comment. So I wonder if the person that looked at it just overlooked what they
Sometimes
were
The
doing.
Board of Health typically only cares about septic systems, and that's typically what they only care about, but this one they need to
This
comment.
is-
This one, they have to know that it's.
Yeah, I'll go back and I'll have a conversation.
This one.
And the lady is Nancy.
Nancy is the one you spoke with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's not who I sent it to.
Yeah, no.
You
I
probably
got
sent it
her-
to Lucy, right? Lucy Forgione?
No, I sent it to,
Yes, yeah, I know who you mean.
Mark, who did you?
it's whoever
I
you
spoke to
sent it to,
Nancy.
or I'd have to look it up.
And she knew exactly
I
the
think you
situation.
could tell her that name.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's.
Yeah.
I've known Lucy for so many years.
Okay. So,
One other thing,
I'm sort of done. The only other thing I wanted to say was, welcome, since we're all seeing you now for the first time.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You look so much taller on TV.
oh, yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and this is the last meeting of the year, so everybody have a good holiday season.
but wait, I do have one more thing.
Sure.
What are we doing for the format of the meetings for next year? We have to notice for that.
We noticed
Obviously,
for
we're
that in January.
Right,
So as far, we have to meet in person in January for this application.
that I realize, however, there are other applications in the queue that are gonna
Have to
start
notice.
asking about noticing.
Yeah,
Like, I just had an inquiry from the planning board for an applicant that's gonna be on in January, how do we know this? And I said, just hold
We
off
were
until I
told,
get back to you.
we were told we have to meet in person because of what happened.
David spoke.
till David spoke up to Nancy. Our Nancy.
First, Township?
No, Nancy Malou. And, they now have a handle on how to secure Zoom. And the problem that occurred with the planning board should not occur again unless it's somebody that we know that's doing it. In which case, we could send the police over.
That's a drop of dime.
Are we
on
gonna
her.
discuss this in part? I mean, is that something that we're gonna discuss?
Well, that's what Nancy's asking right now, because she wants to prepare
No,
the
I'm
paperwork. I'm sorry, Denise.
Got Nancy on the board.
Yeah, I got Nancy on the brain, too many Nancy's.
Yes.
That's what Denise is asking. I spoke with Nancy. Nancy said it's our choice. Do we want to meet in person? Do we want to meet virtually? And I'm more than happy to acquiesce to whatever the board chooses. Do we like in person? Do we want to do Zoom?
I think in person is better for the applicant and for the process. I do. I mean, I enjoy personally, on a level of doing Zoom, it's so exciting and wonderful and you don't have to come here and everything. But I really think that it's richer and you ask better questions and I think there's more interaction in person. I think that the applicant and the town is served better in person. I do.
Okay,
Does it make sense to just,
by the way,
in some way, just take a vote?
I'm happy to do that. By the way, what I will tell you from Mark's comment, that owl camera thing and the the YouTube feed that goes out there that nobody can,
No, it's horrible.
that you can't comment back on, why would you ever stream it? I mean, I can understand a council meeting because nobody wants to comment there anyway, they just want to throw things.
Well, your friends and family want to see you from afar, officiating.
I don't have any of those.
I just want to say hi to my brother Doug in California.
Okay, you can. So it's for, I don't wanna think about the hybrid stuff. I don't think the hybrid is a good idea. It's
Yeah.
either in person or in Zoom. I really don't wanna do the YouTube stream. I don't think it serves a purpose.
It's horrible.
Well, yeah, I think, as you mentioned, that it makes a little bit more sense for a council meeting, because people are observing
Right.
more. Here, there's public participation, and people, I think it becomes a little confusing, well, you're streaming it, well, why can't I participate?
So are you doing an auto recording and this as well? Or is this like the public record of the meeting?
This is the public record.
Right, yeah, okay. So you kind of have to do it.
Well, no, if you do Zoom, then the Zoom recording is the public record.
Right.
There is a system that records.
No,
these
I
crazy
get all that,
things.
but it, in person, that's part of the in-person.
Yeah, so this is the legitimate public
So
record.
these are the speakers. Believe it or not, what we are doing, the way Nicole was able to share her screen, we're not advertising this, but the way we get to live stream on YouTube is through Zoom. So we're running Zoom right now. And then.
And
through
Zoom is recording.
Yes.
And you said he didn't want to broadcast it, but yet here we are for the entire world to know now.
But.
Yeah, but we're not broadcasting that link.
Oh,
That's the link, so they can get it.
Yeah, we're not actually telling anybody what the Zoom link is.
Good.
Right.
So if we're in person, this will still be the way that we
Yes.
record, and we're still gonna
Yeah.
broadcast to Doug in California.
Yeah, so when my sidekick here had
Yes.
COVID,
Yeah,
the way we were gonna bring him into the meeting from his deathbed,
Toying with, yes.
would have been through Zoom, and we would have specially given him the link. So he could have been in the Zoom, but, we wouldn't publish that to anybody else.
Yeah, it's too messy though.
And that's why I've done it with the planning board, and I just did it with Nicole. I don't even send the link out ahead of time, because I don't even schedule the meeting until I come here that day. So I schedule it, and then before the attorney got here tonight, I emailed it to her when she was on her way here. So she didn't even know she had it till she got here.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's how we handle it, but, I really don't want to do the YouTube thing. So it's either we're in person or we're Zooming.
So if one of you want to make a comment before we go?
Raise your right hand for Zoom and your left hand for in person.
Well, there's
Well, I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
that was-
kind of a suggestion then, I mean, if it can wait till the reorganization meeting,
It can,
put it on the agenda, so everyone knows we're gonna vote on this at the reorganization meeting,
Or,
and speak now.
or you send an email
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
we can let everybody know it's an item for discussion.
yeah,
reply to this email with Zoom or in person.
Well, Denise will publish the meeting schedule and the public notice after the reorganization meeting.
Well,
So, that we only need to know it at that time. And then you'll put the schedule out the next day and then it
well,
becomes
yeah, and
official.
another thing, I mean, I could tomorrow, for example, send an email to everyone on the board saying, we're going to be discussing this, start thinking about it.
Right, yeah, I'm suggesting we do that, yes.
yeah, but we should vote in a meeting, we shouldn't like.
Oh, right, yeah, no,
That's-
we can vote at the reorganization meeting, which way we go.
Right, but at least everybody will have time to think about it, they won't have to
Correct.
make a decision on the spot.
And they're on notice too, so.
And to
Yeah.
discuss.
Yes, absolutely.
And in a weird, impossible to think about scenario of a tie, it would be settled with feats of strength.
You might have a tie, right? 'Cause they only-
No, I got a hammer.
Dave's way of the highway, right?
Yeah, we only have 3 alternates, we have 7 board members and 3 alternates, right, so.
At the moment, yes.
We could have a tie.
And yeah, I need to have a conversation with you about that after the meeting closes. Okay. Is there anything else to come up tonight?
Okay,
How's everybody looking at me?
your turn. No, you got the, the
I will
ending.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Oh, boy.
Oh, it was nice seeing you and.
Nice to see you too. Where is John, on a cruise?
No, Gallivanting somewhere.
Yeah.
Southampton. I know Gallivanting somewhere, I don't know where.
Okay.
I can say that. Somewhere, I don't know. It's-
People over on, I can't keep up with that person.
Hey, nice meeting you.
I did.
My whole business is virtual.
Zoom does spoil you. It does spoil you. But it's nice to hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So you actually said something that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah. I've been up there. I did. Put in the high gear. I thought she was a very good witness. Obviously. I don't like the door.
Oh, she.
Hey, thanks, y'all. Happy holidays.
Thank you too.
Nice to meet you.
She's supposed to have.
And by the way, anybody that hasn't seen Candy Cane Lane from Eddie Murphy?
Oh, God.
Jeez. Oregon.
God.
He used to respect him. Candy cane.
Oh, we had to watch it. We decided it's.
Is that it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Something that has.
You wanted to create a movie that.